Wednesday edition of Reality Check here on the home of Black Talk Media. It's none other than WURD. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the Wednesday edition. We actually have scheduled for us, but we haven't yet reached them. Pennsylvania State Treasurer Stacey Garrity is supposed to be joining us, or is scheduled to join us at the top of this 10 o'clock hour. We're going to talk about the federal pandemic relief, emergency rental and utility assistance in the state. About over $550 million worth of rental and utility assistance has been transferred to Pennsylvania counties, well, at least according to the state. So we were scheduled to have an opportunity with PA State Treasurer Stacey Garrity to talk a little bit about that. So we haven't yet located Treasurer Garrity, but we'll let you know hopefully in a moment, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to talk with her. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality. Just phone lines while we sort out reaching the PA State Treasurer. Number of things, obviously, in the national news. Oh, there we go. You have now joining us live. And how are you doing, Madam Treasurer? Can you see us? Can you hear us?
I can. You're in the screen.
All right, excellent. Thanks
How
for
are
your
you,
time.
Charles?
All right, good. We have you live, so we just brought you on, so we'll just go ahead and get to it. We're talking with Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Treasurer Stacey Garrity, and for more, actually, you can go to patreasury.gov to learn about the state of the state's finances and other information there too. Good to have you here this morning with us. We had questions about the federal aid that is being distributed to various Pennsylvania counties. You have about $553 million or near $553 million that's being transferred to counties. Exactly, okay, what is that money? Just give us sort of top line and overview of what is that money and what is it being used for specifically?
Sure. Charles, first of all, thanks for having me on Reality Check. I appreciate it. And that $553 million, that's part of the emergency rental and utility assistance program. So that's going to help Pennsylvanians who are struggling to pay rent and utilities because of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. Now, that emergency money, is that just to clarify for listeners, is that state money? That's federal money? And where is that federal money coming from specifically? Is that, because I think you were saying this is like 553 out of 900 million. Is that coming from the feds?
Yes, so that was part of the second late 2020 stimulus.
Right.
So those are federal dollars, and then of course they were appropriated by the PA law.
Okay, great. Thanks for that that clarification. So that's the $900 billion, that second stimulus that we got from the previous president. Can we sort of discuss and kind of track where different pots of money have gone? Because there's been a lot of concern and conversation about that. Like the first CARES Act, I remember when there was quite a significant amount of money from the first CARES Act that was going towards rental assistance. And then, okay, so we know we have the second late stimulus. Is there any money remaining from the first CARES Act that is still out there floating around? I know the vast majority of that money, I think that was around, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that around like $600 million? But about the vast majority of that ended up in the Pennsylvania prisons.
Right. So I think it was around that amount, but I think what you're talking about is they had $150 million of that amount that was allocated for a rent relief program.
Yeah.
And not all of that was spent, and it ended up going to the Department of Corrections. You're correct.
Yeah.
And early on, there were challenges implementing that program. It was a bit difficult to apply for. It had a $750 cap, and so a lot of landlords did not want to participate, and that's why there was so much money left over.
Got it. Now, are we making sure that this won't happen again with this 550? Well, really, you've got about 900 million total that you can work with. You put out 553 million now. Are we going to ensure that we won't have those same problems as we did last time with that CARES Act money?
Yes. So this is a little bit different. So if the money is not spent, it goes back to the Treasury Department. Okay. So I think it will be spent. I actually went on the website
Mhm.
and looked at the application and kind of went through it, and it's much more user friendly.
Okay, okay. So it'll go back to the Treasury Department, and then I would assume, and anyone else kind of listening in or watching this would assume, it would get recirculated back. You'd sort of correct that. If like there are unused monies, we can recirculate it back to the people who need it most.
I would assume that would happen. I don't think we know quite yet what would happen if we return it. We're assuming we will not return it, that we'll use it all, because there are a lot of people that are hurting and need this money. And this is a little bit different. So the 553 million, there's no cap.
Got it.
Okay, on the rental amount, and also the 150 million you could not use for utilities. This you can use for utilities like, gas, electricity, water, sewer.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's, kind of like it's not just, this won't be like separate pots of money for you as an individual. You can kind of combine this for both rental and utility?
Correct. In
Okay,
the application, it's very clear. So it'll ask you for the rental amount, and then you can list all your utilities, specify what they are, and yeah. So, and this is also a very good thing. So it can backdate, so back to March of 2020, and it will be able to be used all the way through this calendar year.
Okay, got it. Help me sort of navigate this, Madam Treasurer. If I'm a person who needs rental assistance, utility assistance, am I going to patreasury.gov, or I'm really going to my local county, my local city to access those dollars? Is that, or is there like one that, can I go to patreasury.gov and be able to apply for that? How, because you were saying about a few moments ago, oh, this is much more simpler and user friendly than it has been in the past. So how does that work?
Okay, so we have a link on our website, but Treasury is not administering the program. It's actually through DHS.
Okay. So there's the link. Okay. And when I go there now, I'm looking for that link, and I don't see that link on patreasury.gov. But, where would we go?
Go to the newsroom.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay, and you should be able to see it. Now, what I want to mention is that, so like for Philadelphia, your county is over 200,000 people. So you're going to end up, if people want to apply from Philadelphia, it's phlrentassist.org.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Yeah,
and when
sure.
I went out there yesterday, it looked like they were still working on the application. Now, for all of the other counties that have less than 200,000, they can go right to the Compass website. And that is the website that I went to navigate the application, which was user-friendly. The only thing that I didn't like about it was that you can't save it and get back in. You have to do the entire application process all at once. Or if you don't, you'll have to start over.
So that's coming from patreasury.gov too. And I appreciate your patience here, because I want to help people navigate this, because we want to make sure that we don't have, a significant amount of dollars. I'm happy to hear, and I'm sure other people are happy to hear, this won't end up in the Pennsylvania prison system. It's going to go to, it can get, recirculated. We're going to keep better track of this money. compass.state.pa.us. That's the Compass website you were talking about. So it seems like there's three different places people can go to for information: patreasury.gov, compass.state.pa.us, and PHL rental assistance.
PHLrentassist.org. So that would be for Philadelphia County. And I will mention Philadelphia County is the largest, and Philadelphia County was allocated $57 million
Got it.
for this program.
One other thing too, Secretary, transparency. So I'm assuming you guys have always done on patreasury.gov, you've had that transparency window. Is that, being looked at or being utilized or leveraged to be transparent about all the dollars, all the various federal pandemic dollars that you're getting? So, we'll be able to see in real time. And that's one thing that I'm hoping that cities and states will do. We can see in real time how these monies are being spent that you're receiving from not just the second stimulus, but also from the new American Rescue Plan stimulus we just got.
Right. So we're actually looking to see if we can put that on our transparency portal. Right now it is not, but everything that Treasury spends is on the transparency portal.
Okay. So, but can we get a commitment that we're going to at some point, because that's the question that keeps coming up as we've been getting these different rounds of federal stimulus dollars. People want to make sure they know how the state and local governments are using it. That was the concern, of course, that you were hearing. That's why, like, for example, we weren't getting a lot of city and state aid from the first rounds of federal stimulus, because you had basically Republicans balking and saying, well, hey, we don't know if they're going to be, responsible with these monies. So are we going to have that commitment that we are going to have a high level of transparency in how these dollars are spent?
Well, this is the thing. So one of our focuses is moving towards an open checkbook, and that would mean that taxpayers could see how every single dollar is being spent. But in order to move to open checkbook, we need some legislation passed.
Okay. Oh, tell me about that. So you need legislation passed. So is that something that's being worked on right now? Like, basically getting the legislature to pass some sort of policy how does that prevent you from being transparent or just being as Treasury, hey, these are the dollars we received, this is how we're using them?
Because for the other agencies, so of course this is a DHS program, it's actually not Treasury. So what Treasury does is we get the money, we make sure the counties get it,
right.
We distribute it, we communicate information, we try to help all of our folks in the Commonwealth because we know so many people are struggling. But in order to require all of the other agencies to be transparent, so we at Treasury, our agency, we have all of our dollars on the transparency portal. We do need legislation to compel the other agencies.
Ah, got it. Okay, so that's something we need to continue to ask the legislators about.
Yes, absolutely.
This program, we have a question from a viewer on WURD TV who's asking if this is for renters only. What about homeowners? Does the utility assistance apply to the homeowners, or is there separate pots of money for homeowners who are behind on their mortgage?
Yes, it also applies to homeowners.
Okay. So when you go there, I should be able to, there'll be something on that application. I haven't done that myself. I don't need that. But if I go there, I'll have a choice where I will be able to indicate, hey, I'm a renter or I'm a homeowner, and then that money that can become available for me as a homeowner.
Well, actually, the application says renter or landlord.
Renter or landlord. Okay, got it. So, but what if you're not a landlord? You see what I'm saying? Like, I mean, can I, as a homeowner, if I'm not maybe I'm not renting, I just own a home, but I'm behind on my mortgage.
Well, your utilities you could apply for.
Okay, so I should be able.
But not the mortgage. So it's specifically rental and utilities.
Now, speaking of utilities, have you had direct conversations with various utility companies throughout the state of Pennsylvania? Are they sort of collaborating with you to make sure that these utility monies, or they're giving residents or homeowners or renters the time to access this money to apply for it and get that backed, whether it's like an electric bill or water bill or whatever to them?
So they would pay the utilities directly instead of giving the money to the renter to pay the utilities.
Yeah, no, I know that. Just sort of clarify for me. I just want to make sure that kind of everyone, all the various institutions, state, local, and also private sector, public sector, everyone's on the same page.
They are.
Because how long would it take if someone applies for rental and utility assistance? How long is the money loaded into their account? I don't want there to be a situation where, I'm behind on my utilities, but I've got the electric company, the local electric utility hounding me. And I'm like, hey, but the state's getting ready to load some money in my account. Can you just wait? But then they shut the electricity off. I don't want to have situations like that.
Right. And I totally agree. So the counties are basically administering this. Okay. And so the counties already have this money. And so we expect that it'll be relatively quick.
Okay, got it. We've been talking to, if you've been listening in, we've been talking with Pennsylvania State Treasurer Stacey Garrity. What else also, Madam Treasurer, before I let you go in a moment, are there any other programs, any other initiatives that are on the horizon that Treasury is working on now that we should be aware of?
Okay, yes. So recently there was $145 million for CHIRP, so that's for the hospitality. So that's for small businesses. Okay, so those are grant money. And they were also, the $145 million was also allocated to all 67 counties. So this is grant money between $5,000 and $50,000 for businesses that have less than 300 employees.
For small businesses. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, got it. So that's something else too. That's going to go to counties, and so we're going to be checking in. One thing I want to do too, Treasurer, and I'm glad to have you here. We're going to continue to check in with the cities, like Philadelphia, for example, and then I'm kind of keeping a close eye and kind of seeing what other cities and states are doing around the nation with this kind of money, and just checking with them and making sure that, hey, they're using the monies correctly and effectively and efficiently do you as the treasurer have to check in with those counties, just do a bit of oversight and just make sure that those monies are being used for what they're designated for and they're being used quickly and transparently and efficiently? Do you have to maintain oversight?
That would actually be the role of the Auditor General to provide that oversight. So what we do is we make sure that we get the counties their money as fast as we can, and then we try to provide links so to make it user-friendly for our people in the Commonwealth that are struggling.
Got it. Is there any oversight that you have to deal with from the federal government? So is the administration keeping, do they have like, certain conditions, that they've applied or that they have like placed on you as the Treasury Department as you're distributing these funds? Hey, Pennsylvania, we need to make sure you're using these funds correctly. Do you have to, what does that all entail?
Right. So they did make sure there were certain requirements for folks to be eligible for it. So for example, and I'm talking specifically about the rental and utility assistance program. So if you were a member of your household, had qualified for unemployment benefits, experienced a reduction in income, household income, or experienced significant costs as a result of the pandemic, and there's some other criteria.
Okay, got it. Okay. So we'll keep an eye on that, talking to everybody, city, state, federal, making sure these monies are used, they're getting to the right place, because we had a lot of, frankly, there was a lot of incongruity and just misplacement of funds. I'm hoping that that's not going to be the case. I'm more optimistic this round than I was the last two rounds. We've been talking with Pennsylvania State Treasurer Stacey Garrity. She's been joining us here on Reality Check. Madam Treasurer, thanks for your time. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you, and thank you for what you're doing, Charles.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Be safe. All right.
Okay, you too.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back on the other side, we'll be talking with film director, co-producer Curtis Cost. We're talking about a new film that's out, a new documentary called Medical Racism. And it's a film confronting the long-standing experimentation on people of color populations, on black, brown populations. So we're about to talk about that next, where we're scheduled to talk with Curtis next here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, WURD family. Our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, this is Juanita, owners of JD's Auto Body and Painting. We're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue, right there at the intersection of Wayne and Washington Lane.
We really like to thank all you WURD listeners for the support that you've given our business, and we really hope to see you in the future.
JD, tell them about our products and services we have.
We have a new state-of-the-art paint shop along with our body shop and detail shop. We can help you with the dents and scratches from the winter season.
Come to JD's Auto Body and Painting. Come on out and check us out. We're still honoring that WURD 10% discount. Give us a call, 215-848-5949. Again, 215-848-5949.
Thanks again for supporting our business. We really appreciate you.
See you at JD's Auto Body and Painting.
Are you looking for a job? Do you have skills in design, engineering, or computer programming? Get ready for Network, a virtual job fair with Technically Media. On Thursday, March 18th from noon to 6 p.m., the employers at Network are looking to learn more than just what's on your resume. Your personality and fit have real weight in the interviews. Technically is a partner of WURD Radio's Livelihood Initiative. Register for Network, the virtual tech job fair taking place on March 18th at WURDworks.com.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Okay, we're waiting on director, co-producer of the film, of the documentary Medical Racism, Curtis Cost, to join us. In the meantime, we will take calls at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Just hoping that the Pennsylvania State Treasurer, Stacey Garrity, is prepared to fairly and transparently disperse those monies. So we'll keep a very close eye. I'm a little bit more optimistic than I was about the last two rounds of pandemic or relief money or stimulus monies that were coming through the state. But all these different states are having issues properly appropriating and dispersing these emergency relief monies. But it's just making sure that the relief monies get to the people who need it most. And we're not having the kind of mismanagement, the kind of malfeasance that we saw last year. So we know we do know that there's a different attitude because there's a new sheriff in town as far as in D.C. The federal government is a lot more deliberate and a lot more serious about how these pandemic or emergency relief monies are being used. So now it's just a matter of, you know, watching the dots on the I's and the crosses on the T's to ensure that everything is being done properly and correctly and ethically as well. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Also, a lot of people watching, obviously we're watching the national news, still kind of developing and hoping that there aren't any more mass shootings on the horizon there in Atlanta. 8 killed, including 6 Asian women by a suspect who has been by, apparently it seems like a white extremist, another white nationalist, heavily armed white nationalist who once again survives the encounter. But he went around and killed 8 people, including 6 Asian women. Authorities are confirming that it was racially motivated, and it just reflects also Asian populations or Asian communities in the U.S. have been having a very hard time as of late, you know, particularly during the course of this pandemic and of this virus because of the very incorrect, very deliberately disinformation campaign that has been that has been wrought on Asian communities as a result of the pandemic, and just a lot of misinformation, disinformation surrounding the causes, the root cause of the coronavirus pandemic that we're currently in. So, and they've borne the brunt of quite a bit of. This is not the first incident of violence against Asian American community. It's just one that obviously appears to be one of the most horrific, if not the most horrific, since the start of this pandemic. And violence against Asian Americans has been going on for quite some time, even pre-pandemic. So that's something, obviously, it's a developing story, and that's something that we're going to keep a very close eye on. And actually, I'm supposed to have this Friday, I'm supposed to be moderating a panel that's focused on voting rights, voting rights threat assessment. And we're going to look at and unpack the numerous threats against voting rights. And joining me on that panel is actually a state legislator from Georgia, B. Nguyen, who's Vietnamese American. I'm sure there's going to be some conversation or maybe some questions about that, or she may be already kind of watching that situation unfold closely. I don't know if that's in her district. Would happen in Atlanta, but she is a Georgia State Legislature, Georgia State representative, so she's on panel to discuss voting rights, but I get a feeling we may touch on that. For more information, you can go to the benote.com, or the Council of State Governments Eastern Regional Conference is the partner for this event. It's by Zoom. It's open to the public. CSG-ERC.org for more information to register for that event. I'll make that much more available at Ellison Report on Twitter.com. We're still waiting on, or do we have him yet? Okay, we do have our next guest. Curtis Cost is co-producer and also is in the film Medical Racism. We're looking at long-standing experimentation by the medical community, medical institutions on Black communities. Curtis joins us by phone from Los Angeles, I assume. Curtis, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you. I'm actually in New York.
You're in New York now? Okay, got it. Okay, good to know. Thanks so much for that, and I apologize for.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, absolutely. So, talk to us about this film, Medical Racism. Medical Racism, The New Apartheid. It premiered not too long ago, actually last week, and folks can find the trailer on YouTube. Where is that film available now? Can people go to a specific website and watch it in its entirety? Where can we get it?
You just go to Children's Health Defense. If you can just type that into Google, you'll find Children's Health Defense. And also, we also have a Facebook page, and on the home page, you'll be able to find it. And you just click into it, and it's free.
Okay. childrenshealthdefense.org.
.org, yeah. Or if you just type Children's Health Defense, it'll still come up. But childrenshealthdefense.org, yes, you can find it.
Okay, got it. How long have you all been putting this film together? What was the inspiration behind the film? What prompted you to do the film in the first place? Were you pulling it together during pandemic, or is this something that's been worked on for quite some time, even before that happened?
No, this is during the pandemic. We were, time frame wise, I think we were working on about 6 months, I guess. And one of the motivations is that we think people need to be informed that we cannot afford to be naive with regards to the medical establishment. There's a long history of deliberate experimentation on African people in America, and Caribbean, and Africa, and other parts of the world, and with other groups. I mean, while there's a horrific history of things they've done to African people around the world, they've done a lot of bad things to other groups as well. But right now, the focus is on what they've been doing to us, and we need to be aware, especially when they're asking us to naively trust this COVID vaccine.
Got it. Well, first, before I get into that, let me talk about, kind of walk us through the film and what it is. And actually, the director is David Massey of this documentary. Walk us through it and talk to us about the history that it walks us through. What are you showing? What are some of those key kind of flashpoints in history where we've seen that kind of racism inflicted, especially particularly on Black communities?
Sure. I mean, the film covers various time frames going back to slavery and modern atrocities. I mean, we cover the atrocities where this doctor performed gynecological surgeries on Black female slaves, and no anesthesia, and it was diabolical. I mean, any kind of surgery without anesthesia is diabolical. And he did this, and he was considered, still is, to my knowledge, considered the father of gynecology. Unfortunately, recently, a statue they had up for him in New York was taken down. And so going all the way back to slavery, we have things like that. And we look at the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, where the Center for Disease Control, the same agency encouraging Black folks to go take the COVID vaccine, they allowed the terrific Tuskegee syphilis experiment to go on for decades. That these men believed that they're being treated for syphilis when they were not. The doctors were just allowing it to progress, and they wanted to see what would happen. And the end result was that the men involved in the experiment, and many of them died. They spread it to their girlfriends. They spread it to their children. And the only thing that stopped that was a whistleblower who took the information to Ted Kennedy, and Ted had a hearing, and he's the one who brought that to an end. So the same institution, the Center for Disease Control, that wants us to take this COVID vaccine, the ones behind this diabolical experiment. And we have others. I don't want to give too much away, but I think
No, and I'm very familiar with that history too, and I think it's I do think it's necessary that we have to revisit that history. We have to highlight. We have to constantly keep in mind, because you had that level of medical abuse, medical racism, that violence against Black communities. That's been going on for a long time. That even happens on a just basic physician-patient level, right? Where medical doctors, nurses continue to undertreat or misdiagnose or sometimes blatantly don't consider the pain of a black patient. So, you know, I've always kind of reminded people, hey, listen, you know, we suddenly have to jump in, and as we're getting treated, as we're getting tested and treated for coronavirus, we have to kind of also maintain a side eye on those medical institutions. I have to ask you though, you say the same CDC, but it's not the same CDC. We have the CDC in 2021, and don't you think that you know, since the Tuskegee experiment, and now we have all that transparency around events like the Tuskegee experiment, or even, you know, the concern over, and now more transparency, the exposure of what happened with Henrietta Lacks and Marion Sims. Don't we now, we have a level of transparency. It's not perfect, but I would suspect that these sorts of experiments, or some of these sorts of experiments, would not happen again. You know, because the CDC understands that eyes are on them, that kind of scrutiny is on them. So I wouldn't think that a Tuskegee experiment would happen again. I just wonder about that statement, the same CDC.
Well, the fact is that we can document all types of atrocities up to the present time, including the whistleblower case at the CDC. I believe I think the year 2004. So one of the...
No, that was in 2004. Now we're in 2021. That's still a far ways away.
Well, let me finish, okay? Well, where the CDC, and he still works there, knew that the measles...
But he's a whistleblower, and he still works at the CDC, and this was a case back in 2000.
Still works at William Thompson, right? He exposed the fact that they discovered that the measles vaccine caused autism in black boys at 300% greater.
Yeah, but let me, Curtis, all due respect, there was I remember that research that came out back in like the late 90s, that was thoroughly examined and debunked that, you know, about this linkage between vaccines and autism. There's like just no scientific evidence showing that there's widespread autism cases because of vaccines. That's been thoroughly debunked.
No, it's not. In fact,
how's it not? That wasn't even peer reviewed. That particular study that sparked this and triggered all this from 1998 was not even peer reviewed by the scientific community. That was the first thing that they found out. That was the first red flag.
Do you want me to speak?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I'm also the author of the book Vaccines Are Dangerous, The Warning to the Global Community. The first edition of my book came out in 1992, and the second edition 2010. So I've been active on the vaccine issue for about 30 years. And I have a detailed chapter in my book on the subject of autism, and I can tell you that the claim...
But has that been peer reviewed? Has that been peer reviewed by other people in the scientific community? Has your research been peer reviewed? By who? By who? Who was that peer reviewed by?
Okay, just let me finish talking for a second, okay? My book is endorsed by doctors and scientists.
Who are those doctors and scientists? Who are those medical institutions?
Sure, not a problem. One of them is Dr. Roberto Duralda, MD, specialist in internal medicine. He wrote, Mr. Cross's book, Vaccines Are Dangerous, encourages readers to investigate the real intentions behind the campaign to vaccinate everybody against the 2009 swine flu. Dr. Bruce Pulcrum, MD. This book is beaming with love and brilliance. We have
let me ask this, Curtis. Let me ask this though. There's two big questions I have here. One is, if there is this effort or this big conversation, which I'm going to be upfront with you, I think is highly irresponsible. I think it defies all basic public health protocols. It does, because we're in the middle of a pandemic. Let me ask you, what other alternative is there? This is what I ask a lot of people about this. What other alternative is there to a regular? We can't send our kids to school without a booster shot or without a vaccine. So what other plan do you have, or the people you work with have, besides a vaccine? Like, how do you get through the pandemic? You must have a strategy for that.
Well, I mean, the film is designed to encourage people to start investigating the biases in the medical establishment up to the present, and it brings the atrocities up to the present.
Yeah, now, that aspect I agree with. I agree. I think you should do that. but are you discouraging people? I get a feeling from this conversation and the tone of this film, you're discouraging people from doing what they have to do and taking a vaccine. I mean, can we talk about that medical racism without discouraging people from getting through this pandemic, through ending the pandemic? That's my big question mark there. I think you should highlight what's happened in history. I think that shouldn't preclude people from participating in ending the pandemic, correct?
Okay. Well, if you let me talk and not cut me off, I guarantee I will respond. With regards to the pandemic, I mean, there are a lot of questions about how much of a pandemic it really is, because we have over 99%.
How is there questions about how much pandemic it is, Curtis? Wait a second.
Well,
You've got over nearly 530,000. We actually are about to surpass the amount of people who died in the 1918 influenza pandemic. We have 530,000 people dead that we know of. We might have already surpassed it. I don't understand it. You have to help me.
Okay.
Help me compute that.
To your audience, or do you want me as a guest?
No, go ahead. But I mean, the types of claims and statements that you're making, I'm having some issues with.
Okay, well, I can't. You allow me about 20 seconds to speak.
Go ahead, answer it. Answer it.
Well, in terms of my personal feelings on it, the facts are clear. The only ones who are really dying from COVID are the very old, in the late 70s, early 80s, who already have cancer and diabetes, things of that nature.
Okay, all right, Curtis, I'm gonna Curtis. This was great. I wanted to talk about the history of medical racism. I don't want to spread doubt. I can't do it. I've got to let you go. I cannot. I have an obligation here to the audience, and I also have an obligation to, and I appreciate you coming on, Jordan. We got to cut this conversation because I can't. There's, beyond all doubt, there is a raging, deadly, genocidal pandemic that we're all in the midst of, that we have to respond and react to. There can't be any doubt at all about what it is we're in the midst of and what it is we have to respond to. And it's irresponsible of me to keep this conversation going. Curtis, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you highlighting the history. There's other aspects of the conversation I don't appreciate. I'm sorry. Let's take a break, and then when we come back on the other side, we'll take phone calls. 215-634-8065, toll-free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
The Sweet Treat Hut is the highest rated juice bar in Philly, located on the corner of 50th and Thompson Streets, providing delicious, healthy vegan food, juices, and smoothies. Treat yourself to a cup of happiness. Call 215-877-1471.
The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's new monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. For April, WURD Radio is partnering with the Free Library of Philadelphia and showcasing their pick for its annual citywide reading program, One Book, One Philadelphia, entitled The Tradition by Jericho Brown. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, April 13th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, welcome back. I do apologize for that. I didn't do as deep a vetting of that particular guest that was just on. So I did want to get into a conversation, and I think we should have a conversation about medical racism and medical bias and medical violence against black people that has been going on for centuries. So we should have that conversation. But, you know, once again, that should not prevent us from getting through this pandemic and doing the correct, or making the correct step, which is getting 85% of the population inoculated, so we can get to a level of community where the pandemic can officially end. So I apologize for that. You know, I actually did not anticipate that the guests would come on and start having a conversation that would, you know, and I typically, you know, we don't support those kinds of conversations here on this program. You do know that, but I was allowing, or I was thinking that there would be a conversation focused primarily on medical racism, which is a conversation I want to have, but it kind of went off in another direction. I just had to cut it off. So I do apologize for that. I agree with you, Raphael Suleiman, who was saying, just, you know, make sure you have to do your homework with every guest, and you have to vet the guests thoroughly. You do in a lot of occasions, and sometimes we get a heavy amount of guests on this program. So we do some vetting. We do quite a bit of vetting, and I didn't do it as deeply, or I wasn't prepared to get that kind of conversation and language with that previous guest. So that's on me. That's my fault. My apologies for that, and having to expose you to a little bit of that. So I'm sorry. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. But you do notice from kind of the level of conversation we were having, and as he's trying to, you know, kind of give his perspective or view on the pandemic that we're in and on issues like vaccine, you notice it's hard for him. And I've had interactions with folks who are kind of on the other side of that issue. It's hard for them to answer like direct questions. Like they don't have a whole lot of facts, if any, to support the claims that they make. And so it's always like I have a lot of these conversations off record and off air. You know, actually kind of going through that process of vetting. I mean, there's been a couple of conversations I could have had on this program that I didn't have because I was just concerned about the level of misinformation, disinformation that they were spreading. So, and it can be difficult, but, you know, sometimes I have those conversations off air. I'll have, like, you know, email exchanges, and it's hard for them to, like, they can't give you a study. They can't give you a verified or credible medical institution or other credible folks within the scientific community to back their claims. It's just hard for them to do. It was hard for them to do just now when I put them on the spot about that. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check, 215. So the phone lines are open right now as we head into the 11 o'clock hour. Let me go to Brother Mike out of Ohio, who's calling in now for a Reality Check. Brother Mike?
Hey, Charles, it's Brother Michael Ty here. How are you, man?
How are you doing? All right.
You were fine, brother. Let me tell you something. My big brother, Reggie Bryant, may God be pleased with him. I've heard him have to check many and many a host. So you were polite compared to some stuff that I've had witnessed that Reggie had to deal with. And I'm not just saying that. You're right. You can't call and try to put something out there that would discourage our community right now, because we don't need discouragement. We need all the empowerment and encouragement right now from everybody. It's still all hands on deck, like you used to refer to when we were voting the previous president out. That has not changed. It's all hands on deck, and more importantly, because there's resources out there right now, we have to get real aggressive to make sure that our community gets the resources that have just been availed. So I wanted to just make two comments real quick. I'm riding my bike, so I'm
no, that's okay. Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. Thank you.
So I am really enraged that anybody in government would consider having the previous president talk to anybody about anything.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, and I've said this on a previous show, all these state governments, city governments, part of this package was for them to do the legwork on encouraging, having programming, or doing whatever they needed to do to get people inoculated. That did not include the previous president as a dire kind of a spokesman, because we've seen January 6th what kind of message he sent out. So I am incensed. I really, really am. And any politician in the state of Ohio or Philadelphia that backs that up, they'll throw me out of a meeting, because I will get very, very disrespectful. And we just can't allow that to happen. We've got to continue to move forward. We got to keep our eye on this administration. And that's just and them allowing this to happen just demonstrates that we can't be asleep. We have to stay woke. We have to keep pressing forward, and we cannot rejoice that, oh, okay, we got a new president and he's going to do all the right things, because that message at 25 was the wrong thing. So anyway, thank you. I'll continue to listen, and you do an excellent, excellent job. You're not perfect. There's no apologies necessary. None at all. You do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Mike. I appreciate those words of encouragement this morning. So I still do apologize for folks for letting that guest on the airwaves. I had no idea. Let me go to Maurice out of Southwest, who's calling in for a reality check. Maurice? Maurice, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm so disappointed in you. I'm going to tell you why. You wanted the best guys on the radio, but the mute button can't be your best friend. Even if you disagree with that brother 100%, you don't beat nobody off. You make him look like a fool with your intelligence. You don't just cut him off like that.
But Maurice, we were already kind of close up on the.
That's another.
I can't. I had already had enough of the conversation. I already went through anyway, and we have a responsibility as an outlet, as a station, as a credible media organization. I hear where you're coming from on that, but I think I had let enough of it. I let enough of it go through.
You don't have any medical degrees.
No, I don't. But I have enough. No, I don't. But I have access to enough information to be able to make a.
Talk and get him into a corner. You just don't meet nobody, because that's showing that you can't battle him intellectually.
No, it's not. It's showing that I'm trying to protect the community from deliberate misinformation. Yes, it is. That's what I'm doing.
How are you protecting anybody? Don't you understand when they did the
What about, but Maurice? What about the part of the reason why we are where we are now, Maurice, is because of disinformation. There's just people putting out the wrong information and people misleading
people. I wish you would take the same attitude with city government like you took with that guy.
We do.
No, you don't.
Of course we do. We do that all the time.
When the last time you had the commissioner on?
But Maurice, we're trying to get the commissioner. That's not up to me. That's up to the commissioner and her schedulers. So I mean, I can't force the commissioner to come on the program. I can't. We're working on it, but that's not something I can force anyone to do.
Charles, I'm on your side. I'm on your side. But that's not how you put a person off. Because now you got people that.
But wait a second. But Maurice, I gave the gentleman enough time. I gave him enough time to talk. He's spreading lies, Maurice. He's spreading. I can't give him any more. Maurice, it's not responsible for me. In fact, it's like unprofessional for me to keep him on, to allow him to continue to spew misinformation. Now, if he wants to talk about the history of medical racism, that's facts. Let's stick with that. But once he started going off rails, I can't allow that, Maurice.
Yeah, but Charles, you asked him them questions. He was trying to answer it in the best way he could.
He started to answer, Maurice, but those answers, those were some dangerous answers, Maurice. I couldn't have it go on.
Hey, listen,
we can't do that as a station.
I understand, Charles. This is supposed to be black talk. We're supposed to let it all hang out, and then you shut down what you don't believe.
Not if it's spreading disinformation like that.
Charles. What you want? You running the radio station by a button?
Sorry, Maurice. We can't do it. We can't do it when people are spreading lies like that and falsehoods. People are getting killed now because of that. we're living in an age and an era where information can spread at very rapid speed, and it kills people. You know, look at what happened in Atlanta yesterday. Because that cat right down there, he's heavily armed, kills 8 people because he's believing and he's persuaded by a level of information that looks persuadable, it looks credible, but it's not. I can't do that. I can't, you know. So we have to, it's a new world that we're living in. It's not like talk radio back in like the 70s and the 80s, and then you didn't have the internet. You didn't have things like, you know, social media. But now, like, we've got to be a lot more vigilant. We have to. And so it requires us to, and we're going to have to adapt to that. I'm sorry, Marisa. Let me let you go because I got to take in some other calls. I appreciate your perspective on that. It's not that I'm trying to, like, shut different points of view down. But this is not both sides on this. This is like, this is truth versus lies. It's facts versus falsehoods. Full stop. It's a pretty black and white choice. And I can't respond. So he started going in that direction where it's like, I can't keep him on any longer. I can't. And we were coming up on break anyway. Valencia out of East Falls. So I just made a judgment call, and I'm not going to apologize for that judgment call. Let me go to Valencia out of East Falls, who's calling in for a reality check.
Yes.
Valencia?
Yes, hi. Good morning, Charles. Love your show. Love you, everything. But
thank you.
The guest that you had on, I think we just have to hear all sides. I don't know if what he was saying was false, but if we look at what's going on, from us, the black people, we have seen that they do not care about us.
No,
they kill
I know.
Every day in the street. They kill our women when they go to give childbirth, and they're not doing anything to help the situation.
No.
So we just. And I'm not speaking for anybody. I'm just speaking for myself. I just have to step back and say, well, they're doing all of this to us. They're not trying to help us. So how should we feel that they're saying, okay, this vaccine is to help you?
Right.
It's just hard for me to wrap my head around that when they're killing us every day with no care. Like, we don't care if you die in the street. Philadelphia, people, we're up to like, how many people are dying in the street every day and they're not doing anything to help us? Why should I be like, okay, this vaccine is to help me? Why? I
can help you with that.
Care.
Right. So, Ms. Valencia, I think, okay, so I can help you with that. We should be giving, and in fact, I write about this, and I got something that's coming out in the Philadelphia Inquirer, I'm told, in the Sunday edition. I do this with Dr. Ivan Walks, who's the former Chief Public Health Officer for the District of Columbia. So I'm co-authoring a piece with him, and we talk about that. You can have a both-and conversation here. We can have the exact conversation. That's the conversation I want to have, I'm willing to have, about medical racism against black folks that happens on a continuous daily basis. In fact, it was Kevin Ahmad Jenkins over at Penn, social epidemiologist. He always makes this point. We have on average 275 black people per day dying from medical violence, from medical bias and racism. 207, that's more than the average number of black people per day that die from police violence. But we don't highlight that, right? But one thing Dr. Ahmad Jenkins would tell you, that should not prevent us, that should not discourage us from participating in getting inoculated with the rest of the population. However, because of our history, and we need to know that history, we should always, absolutely, Ms. Valencia, we should always be watching the medical establishment with a side eye. Absolutely, and pharmaceutical companies and all that, because the history is absolutely there. So, we maintain that pressure, and that's called scrutiny. First of all, I think hesitancy should not mean outright rejection. Hesitancy just means that we're on alert, right? And so we're just watching things very carefully, and we're keeping that pressure on and making sure, hey, listen, if you are going to treat us, because that's who we got to go to. It's not like, we've got our own, major, viable, big, massive medical institutions that we can go to. No, we've got to first make sure our people are in these institutions. And then, yeah, we're going to have to put a certain level of trust in these institutions if we get sick and we need care. We do that all the time, right? So I think that conversation should absolutely, just like you said, Ms. Valencia, that should continue to go on. However, it is highly irresponsible for a conversation to get out there or for us to discourage or prevent people from taking, from getting mass inoculated, from taking vaccine. I think you can do a both and there, because we've been doing this for centuries. Civilizations, civic societies have been doing this for centuries, getting vaccinated to prevent things like what happened in 1918, or preventing what happened, or trying to prevent what's happening now. And so it's just a both and type deal. Ms. Valencia, I'm sorry, I got to let you go real quick because I got to take. But thank you for that. And just, it's not about trusting those institutions. It's just about making sure that we're armed with correct information. Going back to Maurice, it is not about it's not even a conversation about trust. It's a conversation about just healthy doses of skepticism and being armed with correct information. If we are going to be skeptical about what these institutions do or what they're administering to get us all healthy and get us out of this pandemic, we have to make sure that it's correct information. And so it's irresponsible for me to give anyone a minute more who's deliberately, like he's deliberately doing it. And he's doing it under the guise of a film that's talking, so I think that's rather rather funky of him and the people he's working with. Like, here's a really good film. Here's a film that has potential to really set people straight, or to inform people or educate people about the history. But, you're using it to, to swindle people and discourage them from taking vaccine. I think that's terrible. Let me go to Yvette out of North Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Yvette?
Hi. I just wanted to thank you for standing up for science.
Right.
Because
thank you.
My sister and I, we consider ourselves armchair scientists. We read everything. We read scientific journals for fun. I belong to the Mutter Museum and attend lectures. And right now, because of our influence, my nephew is at St. Joe's, and he's a biology major, and he wants to be an epidemiologist. So people also need to realize that a black woman was involved with the vaccine. Dr. Kizneckia Corbett? She's an immunologist, works with Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci has even talked about her.
Yeah.
She's one of the leading scientists involved with the vaccine. So I think people need to read up. Don't believe stuff you hear on the street and wacky stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
Go to the CDC, read the information, and just be aware. Not saying that there's not abuse happening, but if you read up on things and look at things with an eye to science, I think people will be okay.
Right. I mean, and thank you for that, Ms. Yvette. And it's just so important. Science literacy is so important, and we lack a lot of it these days. I mean, there's certain things we used to have. It feels like we had a higher level of science literacy, or we seem to embrace science literacy more back when I was growing up than we do right now. Like these days, I don't know. And there's a variety of reasons for why that is. But yeah, going directly to the source, like the Centers for Disease Control, and then, getting getting a second opinion. Go to factcheck.org. Go to Verify. There's a number of sources. There are a number of, Fact Check is a project of the Annenberg Public Policy Center out of the University of Penn, and so they check these claims and theories like every day. That's what they do. And they deconstruct them, they break them down, and they provide you with the facts. And so it's just, we have to work harder at that now than we did 30 years ago when we didn't have social media and the internet. And I know, and it is a very difficult time for everyone, for all of us, especially for someone like me. And I've got to keep track of like reams of information and streams of conversation like on an hourly basis. It's a lot. It's a lot. I don't have like a large staff to do it. Most of the time I'm doing it on my own. And it's a lot to keep track of. And so sometimes certain things like that would happen about a segment ago, it slips through the cracks. And I apologize for that. But yeah, I mean, it's just a very difficult time. I've always said we're not just in a pandemic, we're also in an infodemic. The deliberate spread of false information to discourage people from doing things and also to hurt people. There are people out there who are deliberately looking to hurt people or to do harm on certain populations. I can't chance that. Sorry, other folks out there who might disagree. Well, I'm not going to apologize for that, for trying to protect people from harm. I'm not going to apologize for that. All right, let's take a break. I went over time a little bit already. Actually, we have coming up as our next guest, we're going to talk about water rate hikes in the city of Philadelphia. So I'm told Water Commissioner Randy Heyman is coming up next here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, WURD family, Reverend Leroy was a boss good recommendation for Clark Roofing. I found them to be a solid business, honest, dependable, fast, and clean workers. Mr. Clark stands by his work. Call him at 215-365-7663.
Call Clark Roofing and ask for a second-generation master roofer, Calvin Clark. Clark Roofing professionally installs a variety of roofing systems for your home or businesses. Call Clark Roofing at 215-365-7663 or visit their website at clarkroofingpa.com.
If you understand the value of doing business with a company that values its clients, remember this name: Heat and Air Guys. At Heat and Air Guys, we give our clients extra value by offering lots of ways to make their lives easier, like financing for your installation. You get 18 months, no interest, no payments, 10-year parts and labor warranties, service on all makes and models, seasonal tune-ups, all offered by skilled, reliable technicians who value the opportunity to be of service to you. Call Heat and Air Guys at 610-583-3207.
It's Women's History Month, and we want to honor Black women authors by helping you level up and read up. Join the Forward movement and get a free copy of a book from one of the most influential Black women today. For a limited time, you can add The Little Book of Big Lies by Tina Lifford, She Came to Slay by Erica Dunbar, Sing Unburied Sing, a novel by Jesmyn Ward, or Acts of Faith by Jan Van Zant to your reading collection. Level up and read up. Go to wordradio.com/join now to join or renew your Forward membership and get your free book today.
In celebration of women, Nina Simone.
I'll tell you what freedom is to me. No fear. I mean, really, no fear. If I could have that half of my life, no fear. That's the only way I can describe it.
This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, Philadelphia. Independent Black media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, we're waiting on Philadelphia Water Commissioner and CEO Randy Heyman. He's going to come on and talk about, we have questions about this proposed water rate hike. 18%, it's a nearly 18% water rate hike for Philadelphia residents. We've got a lot of questions about that. Water rate hikes have been happening. It's not just during pandemic. This has been an issue. It's been a problem for quite some time now in the years leading up to pandemic, and happening in all the major cities. Some cities more than Philadelphia. I know a lot of Philadelphia residents, and rightfully so, feel like they're being unfairly burdened with water rate hikes or excessive water rate hikes. You should see some other cities out there, like Austin, Texas, for example, is one city that stands out. It's like at the top of a list of about 12 cities, Philadelphia included on that list, that have some of the highest or some of the most prominent trends of water rate increases. So Austin's on that list, Detroit, other places, they've been having some serious issues with that. Philadelphia having issues with it too. A lot of people can't afford water bills. And so we're going to talk to the commissioner shortly. He hasn't called yet, so we'll wait on that. Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-3738. here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. We'll just go ahead and open up the phone lines, and then we'll bring the water commissioner on, and we'll have some questions for him. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Also, President Biden saying that he's open to changes on the filibuster, changes to the filibuster, not getting rid of the filibuster, but changes to the filibuster. Joe Biden has not yet read this book, Kill Switch. You should really get this book if you get a chance. Another book, I think we had a book yesterday we recommended that was written by the late, great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Why We Can't Wait. Another book that you should read that just came out recently in January, Adam Gentelson's Kill Switch, which gets into, in very kind of plain-spoken way, it's a great history lesson, the history of the filibuster. If, maybe more people read Kill Switch, including President Biden, they'd understand that the filibuster is extremely anti-constitutional. And maybe he needs to read, or maybe members of his administration and really members of the Senate need to read it. Republicans in the Senate, they probably know that history. And they understand where that history stems from, and that it was actually slaveholders that created the filibuster back in the 1840s. But the president saying that he is open to what people are describing as significant changes to the filibuster. Is that 60-vote threshold that you need. Right? You can't get legislation passed through the Senate. That's why it took us a minute to get pandemic relief passed, because they were trying to decide, okay, do we get it passed with a majority? Get it passed as just kind of a normal bill, or do we get it passed as a budget bill? If we get it passed as just a budget, what they call a reconciliation bill, all we need is 50+1 votes. To pass it as a normal bill, you have to get at least 60 votes. You 60 votes to, you can't just get a simple majority. You got to get a super majority. You got to get 60 votes, and that's why a lot of legislation you'd like to see passed, it doesn't get passed, because it's not just a simple majority. To pass legislation in the Senate, you need 60 votes to end the filibuster, and the filibuster is being used all the time in the U.S. Senate. And so and that whole notion of a supermajority, or that whole notion that minority rights should overrule majority rule, stems from back in the day, before the Civil War. Vice President at the time, James Calhoun, was the person who put this into effect, because the Southern slaveholders were in the minority in the Congress, and they wanted some sort of weapon or tool, procedural tool, to back up legislation or to back up policy, or to push policy that supported their slaveholding agenda through the U.S. Congress, and hence they created the filibuster. That's so definitely check out Kill Switch by Adam Gentleson, who used to work for Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, by the way. It's a great book. Let me go to, I'm sorry, I think we do have the Water Commissioner on. Water Commissioner Randy Heyman is joining us now here on Reality Check. Commissioner, how are you doing, sir?
I'm fine. Good morning to you.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. This proposed rate hike, 18%, where are we with that now?
Well, at this point, we have filed the paperwork. It has gone to the rate board, and your listeners need to understand that in the past, the water commissioner could set the rate. But at this point, the proposal goes to a rate board, and there are a group of hearings that are held regarding the rate that's proposed. So at this point, they're having their hearings. They had 2 yesterday on Tuesday. They'll have others, 2 more on Thursday. I believe it's 1 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the evening. And so that's where we are at this point.
Where can people go to get access about those hearings, Commissioner?
Yes, for the hearings, they can go to, pull that up for you.
Mm-hmm. Is that the Philadelphia Water Department website?
Well, they can also go there. They can go to phila.gov/waterbillhelp. That's one area that they can go to, and I think that's probably the best for them to do, to contact.
Water bill. Okay, so let me get this straight. So you were just saying that the proposed rate hike, that proposal doesn't come from you, that comes from the board, or that comes from you and goes to the board?
The proposal comes from us. And let me give you some information if I can. we have to do a usage evaluation, okay? We do a water use study, a utility use study, and that allows us to see what do we need to maintain this utility. We do not receive taxpayer funds, and we are not a for-profit business, and that's what some people misunderstand. We simply ask for and receive enough money to operate the facility and make sure that we are in line with the federal constraints and requirements and regulations that are placed upon us. I'd like to also add that the department is requesting this relief because it needs additional revenue to address changes in consumption patterns, collection rates, and replenish our department's depleted financial reserves, which we had to pull from during this pandemic. And this way we can maintain our existing service levels and go forward with the needed capital improvement programs.
Let me ask, Commissioner, are you receiving federal pandemic relief money, though? Because, I mean, I know Philadelphia is receiving $1.4 billion. I mean, the water department, we get some of that as a government agency, correct?
That's an excellent question. And the bottom line is this. We had the CARES Act last year around March. We asked for $2 million, I think it was, for PPE, the protective gear, and it turns out we're still waiting on that money. We have not received that yet. Now, at this point, we are delighted to hear.
Oh, wow, wow. So there's CARES Act money that's out there. How much was that again that you have not received yet?
About $2.5 million.
$2.5 million. So why propose a rate hike on Philadelphia residents? Why not, get on members of Congress or get on the state to get that $2.5 million in CARES Act money to start filling that budget gap?
That's a good question. But the bottom line is that money has to go for PPE. It does not go for operations. The main part is this. Any money we receive from the federal government is going to be basically a drop in the bucket as far as what is needed to keep the facility running at the level that everyone expects it to run. The problem we're facing, I want to be clear, the problem we're facing is not unique to Philadelphia. We have an aging infrastructure. As you may remember, on Kingston Park, there was a flood just recently. A water main broke, and it flooded the street. I grew up near the Mississippi River. I've never seen that much water in the middle of the street running as fast as it did. And the bottom line is this. We have aging infrastructure. The pipe at that location was about 100 years old, okay? And so out of sight, out of mind. The bottom line is our facility is huge. We maintain a network of over 3,000 miles of water main, 3,700 miles of sewers. We have 3 wastewater plants, 3 drinking water plants. All of these facilities need to be maintained. Some aspects of them, the pipes in the ground, are sometimes at their end-of-life stage. And what we've been able to do is postpone. And we're at a point now where we have to really sharpen our pencils and go forward. I want to also say this, that as a public servant, we at Philadelphia Water have a fiduciary duty to our public. We have to be truth tellers. We have to look at the math, look at our utility use study, and make a determination. What do we need to operate? I present that. I have that obligation. Once we present it, it goes to the rate board, and the rate board can decrease if they see necessary.
Hey, Commissioner, let me ask now, what is the total deficit that you are, how much in the red are you as the water department right now?
Well, we had our budget last year, and they took away $25 million. Last year we had to take out $33 million from our reserves, and then later we'll take out another $42 million. Now, when you're not in the red, but you're taking money. You're being forced to. When you said they took away, who's they that took away $25 million? The city. We had to release $25 million of our original fiscal year 2021 budget by $25 million. Right. Okay. Now, what happens?
So you're not in the red though. You're not dealing with a deficit at this point.
At this point, we're able to go forward, but the problem we have.
But why? I don't understand why. But Commissioner, I'm sorry, Commissioner, I hate to cut you off on this one, but I'm just trying to wonder why such a significant rate hike. I mean, Philadelphia is already one of the top 12 cities. I saw this in a Guardian report. Top 12 cities. It's like a water poverty city. It's a growing. So you said you had a fiduciary responsibility to Philadelphia residents. Isn't that part of it? Making sure that you're not putting Philadelphia residents in more water poverty. With an 18% is significant, Commissioner.
Well, it is significant, but it is needed for us to go forward. But what you have to also understand this, Philadelphia has a big heart, and we are known for having a safety net to protect those who are the least amongst us to pay the bill. We have the TAP program, the Tier Assistance Program. It's a safety net. So if a person a household makes less than 150% of the federal poverty line, below the federal poverty line, they're able to pay 2 or 3% of the amount due. We have a senior citizen program that helps. We have a hardship program. The real key we have right now is making sure we get out to the public what these programs are, and so that they can receive the money to help them with their bills. You're absolutely right. We cannot raise the bills without also being compassionate and having a way to protect people. We have those programs. Let me also add this. The Utility Emergency Service Fund, UESF, and the Public Housing Development Corps are going to be services that will receive money, and then people can apply for assistance with their bill. And to date, they've only released about $30,000. And so that, too, is another angle that individuals can make contact and try to receive some additional money.
Yeah, let me. I have like a few listeners here on Facebook Live, Commissioner. People feel like we pay enough taxes now. Maybe they need to end the tax abatement. It's an interesting point. Also, a person who's been in their home 40 years, they had to replace the sewer line twice. But I guess that gets back to the aging infrastructure question. But I hear this another listener who's saying that that she's currently having a problem with the water department. She's been in her house for over 5 years. She got a note stating that they've been able to read my bill for the past. They haven't been able to read the bill for the past 2 months. And so her bill went from $50 to $200. And, nothing's been done about that. She's having trouble understanding why is the bill. I'm kind of thinking about this long term. If these rate hikes, because this is not the first rate hike or significant rate hike, it just seems to be an ongoing trend. Are you going to have enough customers in Philadelphia that can pay their water bill and fund the kind of projects that you want? I'm just trying to figure out at what point does this become unsustainable, Commissioner?
No, I understand your question. First, for the individual who had a problem, we're more than happy to talk with them. They can contact us at phila.gov/waterbill help, waterbill help, and we'll be glad to talk with them. As far as raising the rate, we did raise the rate in 2019 and 2020, I believe it was. There's only about 1.2, 1.3%. It was a very small amount. Again, I want to echo the issues we're seeing in Philadelphia as far as having an old system that needs repair and replacement is not unique to Philadelphia. It is across the country. And that's why you're seeing such large numbers coming from the federal government. There was a time, I've been involved in water, wastewater for almost 20 years. There was a time when we could go to Washington and get federal funds, and they were grants, not loans. Those days have passed. Right now we have the new program, and we're glad to see it. But let's keep in mind, that is money that is promised. Yes, it's $1.5 trillion, and that's on your front pages. But the truth of the matter is the programs have to be stood up. They have to be in place. We have to know what the parameters are. We have to know what they're going to cover. Those are things that are going to be worked out. The ink has barely dried on that program. And we need to know more about how do we apply and what should be paid for.
Here's a question, Commissioner, about infrastructure, because I think, there is a big national conversation about infrastructure. Philly's not the only city dealing with it, right? So, one, how much, to repair all those, because hundreds of years of infrastructure in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is one of the oldest cities in the country. In your mind, what's the price tag of that? That's the first, this two-part question. What's the price tag of fixing all the infrastructure, water infrastructure in Philadelphia to get it up to spec?
Well, I'll tell you this. We have a water master plan that looks at $2.5 billion over 25 years. Okay? Your customers probably know the Queen Lane plant in East Falls. It's essentially going to be reconstructed through the entire plant with additional treatment capacity and UV treatment. We have work that's going to be done at the Baxter plant, which supplies 60% of our Philly water. It, too, will have ultraviolet treatment and also will have other repairs made to it. The bottom line is that the system that we have is older, and it needs to be repaired. And I want to say something, too. When you talk about rates in our comparison to other cities, it's important to note that we are below St. Louis. I think we're about in the middle, even with this proposal. We're below St. Louis, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Washington. But the real key is not how much our our rate is. The bottom line is that we're compassionate, and through our programs, the TAP program, and the money that's going to come through the Utility Emergency Service Funds and PHDC, that our customers can apply for help with their arrears. That's the critical part.
Do you think that, are you having conversations now? Because I definitely want to have conversations with them about this, with members like the Philadelphia delegation, members of Congress representing Philly, Pennsylvania, about like a big, bold infrastructure, federal infrastructure package on the horizon. Maybe that could, could help that process of getting that infrastructure fixed.
I like what you're talking about, and that is something that we continuously do. We are members of the different water utilities, and we try to go to the national government with a unified voice. And so we join in with other utilities, and we also are going through the lobbyists that we have for the city and making our own connections with our state and federal. But you're absolutely right. There is a need for help. I'm the messenger. And the bottom line is, as I said, I have a fiduciary duty to give you this information. But how we react to it, keep in mind, the moment we get less money, that means some projects that won't be done, or a repair that would take 3 weeks instead of one night. That's the reality that we're dealing with, and we're trying our best to sharpen our pencils. We live in this community.
One last question, too, Commissioner, before I let you go. No, I think this is real. I got to bring you back, too, because this is a very important question. It's something we follow. Because another thing, too, I'm worried about with Philadelphia is I've seen the projections of flooding over the next 30 years in Philly and who that's going to impact the most. But if you get federal relief, not federal relief, but if you get infrastructure dollars, because that's what's being talked about in Washington, like a big, bold infrastructure bill, that's going to be the next big magic trick coming out of the Biden administration.
Fingers crossed.
Would you then consider reducing water bills, like, maybe, I don't know, setting back on that rate hike, or pulling back on that 18% rate hike?
Excellent question, and that is something we have put a lot of thought into. Right now, we don't know how much money we'll receive or when we'll receive it. But the bottom line is, our proposal went to the rate board. They are conducting their hearing. There's a technical hearing aspect to it, okay? When we get into that section, we'll be able to consider what additional funds do we have from the federal government. If it is substantial and it allows us to adjust the rate, we have no hesitancy in doing that. The problem and the reality that I must share with you is that most likely the amount we get from the federal government will not be significant enough overall for us to be able to reduce the rate. But we're more than open to listen, and if by chance the numbers come in and they are positive, we will not hesitate to evaluate all options.
All right. So phila.gov/water. We'll try to get. I'll be honest with you, Commissioner. When I go to each of those websites, I'm not getting. It's not very transparent about when those rate board sessions are taking place. I don't know
which you all. Let me give you another site, and I have it in front of me. It is Philly H2O.info/2021-rate-proceeding. Okay.
Okay, got it.
And those are the hearing. That's where they can get information for the hearing. There will be Zoom links and all. And again, that's Philly H2O.info/2021-rate-proceeding. That's where they can go to get information there. If by chance they want to help with their arrears, the UESF number that I mentioned, they can contact 215-814-6837, or they can email utility@usfacts.org. The bottom line is we're here to help them, and you're right, you're bringing up good options. The fact of the matter is I don't think they'll be substantial enough to make a monumental change. But we'll listen to everything. We're more than happy to receive any money from the feds, and we're always here to help our customers. Again, they can contact us at phila.gov/waterbill help, H-E-L-P.
Okay, got it. Commissioner, I know we got to let you go. We're a little bit over time there. So let's keep in touch. Let's also continue to have that conversation with members of Congress. We have them on here regularly, and I'm going to ask them about that and see what help you can get, what help the residents can get. But thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. That was Philadelphia Water Commissioner, CEO Randy Heyman. So we'll talk to him again. We'll keep an eye on. And yes, go to Phila. I mean, I guess it's as accessible as you can get. I mean, the most simple path to go find out about these water, and I really hope that people will go and have their voice heard. Go to phila.gov/water and you will see information about meetings and hearings that are coming up in the near future. All right, let me take a break, and we'll be right back here on Reality Check.
Hello, entrepreneurs, especially if you're in the food delivery space. CBD is one of the fastest growing health and wellness categories out today. And as it is now legal, you can expand your customer base and increase revenues per ticket by using this as a specialty food offering. CBDmealsdelivered.com is now for sale and would be a perfect website to integrate with your existing food delivery website. Thank you.
Olaniyan Adefume, author of the Book of Questions, needs your help. He is seeking out responses for an updated version of the Book of Questions Series 2. The topics of the book cover issues of religion, race, sex, economics, politics, and health. One example would be, what do you think of the Capitol riot of January 6, 2021? For more information, reach out to him directly at 215-678-3830 or email him at oadefumi@yahoo.com.
The Black Words Book Club. Word Radio's new monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. For April, Word Radio is partnering with the Free Library of Philadelphia and showcasing their pick for its annual citywide reading program, One Book, One Philadelphia, entitled The Tradition by Jericho Brown. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, April 13th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for Word members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
Hainan Landa is CEO of Optimal Networks. Is based in Rockville, Maryland. Go to optimalnetworks.com for more information on that. But he's also an expert on topics like cybersecurity, and he's author of The Modern Law Firm, How to Thrive in an Era of Rapid Technological Change. He joins us on Word TV via Skype, here on Word Radio as well, on Reality Check. Hainan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, great. I really appreciate your time as well. I noticed a recent report just came out from intelligence agencies talking about, well, sort of verifying what we already knew, right? That there was a high level of infiltration of social media networks. Don't have really any evidence that there was any sort of attempt at infiltrating actual voting machines or electoral functions by the Russians, but that sort of activity was very prevalent. It was very pervasive during 2020. So, it brings us to a conversation that we need to have about cybersecurity, because we just had a major cybersecurity attack happen that's still going on, right? Is that still going on over the past few months now that we really as a public have not paid attention to? Talk about that and how severe it is.
Are you talking about the SolarWinds one or the Microsoft Exchange one? Or
right, exactly. I mean, it's like waves and waves. Like, tell us about all of them, right?
Waves and waves and waves. Look, what happened was we had a pandemic, or we're still having a pandemic, and everyone picked up, or a lot of people picked up and went home to work. And people are afraid. They're just afraid. And so when you got all this fear running around, it's pretty easy to take people as victims, and it's pretty easy to take advantage of people.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot of what's been happening. We've seen an increase in phishing attacks, just email phishing attacks, 667%. We've seen 400% increase in cyber breaches across corporations. So, I mean, I don't mean to scare you with statistics. I hate to be fear-mongering, but...
We scare people with statistics all the time.
Oh, okay, all right. And the thing is not only is it like the politics and the bad actors and stuff, but there's a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
A lot of money. You are looking at $1.5 trillion a year of money. They say it's bigger than Amazon and Apple, like and Walmart, all combined.
Generated by cyber theft or cybersecurity breaches.
Cyber theft across it. Yeah, this thing has gotten just outrageous, and it's getting worse and worse. And it's tough to have any more, mental space left for this fear when you've got the whole pandemic going along.
Yeah.
But people can't let their guard down. It's a big industry.
It's overwhelming too, right? As an institution, as a business, just as an individual, because you're constantly looking out for all. I mean, you got enough stress dealing with. We're in the middle of a pandemic, or just life, right? Life in and of itself is just stressful, right?
Yeah.
And now but then you got to deal with, because I'm seeing a lot of phishing attacks. Like I get weird texts that I don't open up, like on my phone.
Yeah.
And everyone on my wife's phone, the kids' phones, they're all like, what are these weird texts? I'm like, don't open up the link, right? You just have to delete it. And so, but I mean, we're seeing more and more of that, and it's like how to function, how to navigate in an environment like that.
Yeah, well, first of all, that's my favorite thing in the world. That's called my favorite name in the world. It's called smishing. Because it's SMS phishing. So they call it smishing.
Yeah.
But you have to keep your awareness up. You have to be a little suspicious when you're online. They say 95% of all these cyber attacks start with some kind of an email phish, with somebody pretending to be somebody else, and trying to take advantage of you, trying to get your financial records, trying to get your business financial records, your professional financial records. That's been some of the biggest stuff they're doing. And in the past, how everyone thinks it's like a bunch of teenagers sitting in their mom's basement in their underwear playing on computers. That's not what's happening anymore. You got big places. They look like cubicles. They're like modern offices. Well, I don't know how modern, but they look like offices, and they're in countries that don't frown on this kind of behavior that hard, and it's an operation. It's an operation. Yeah.
Got it. Wow. What are there features? Are there certain kind of classic features of a phishing or a smishing attempt that let you know, that kind of red flag you as an individual or as a business that, oh, you know what, this is someone trying to breach my network?
Absolutely. If you look at the emails, you'll see misspellings. You'll see kind of like little red flags, like bad grammar, things like that. And you think that it's just because they don't know what they're doing. They do know what they're doing. They're doing it deliberately, because they figure if you're not catching the bad grammar, then you're not gullible enough to go through with the rest of the attack.
Right.
So, they're looking for people who are stressed, who are moving quickly, who don't have their guard up. And look at those emails. If you see a link in an email and they're asking you to click on it, hover over that link with your mouse, or you can long press it on the phones. Just hold it down and make sure it's actually going to where they say it's going. And sometimes it goes somewhere else.
Right.
So those sorts of things. Yeah.
Right. What are you advising businesses to do? Businesses, small, mid-sized, large. What are some of the basic things that they should do to protect themselves, to layer themselves from these kinds of attacks? What are some of the things that they are doing now, that are effective? Or maybe there are some things that they're doing, that organizations, institutions are doing now, that aren't effective. They think they are, but they're not.
Great question. I can give a few different things. We're rising up into everything we could possibly do to help people with this. Yeah. The number one thing is educate yourself. It doesn't take long. If you're in a business, you should have a proper security awareness program where everyone gets trained, but they also have simulated phishing attacks, so you can get tested and make sure that you got your guard up with little email reminders and just a training program. But even if you're at home, jump on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of training videos out there. You can take 15 minutes and you learn. I've got one on my website. You just do the same website with a /security. It's a 30-minute security training. Just jump on it and learn a little bit about what's out there.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, use two-factor authentication. This is across the board. This is for businesses. This is for individuals, consumers. It's one thing to have a username and a password for all your websites. It's another thing to have a username, a password, and your cell phone, right? Because if you're using factor authentication, it's texting your cell phone with the code or something like that. It's really hard for the hackers to get a hold of your cell phone. So it makes it extra hard for them. It's really important for every application up and down. And the third thing I'd say is for businesses, if you got a lot of people working at home, make sure you got some extra security, some extra antivirus, there's some more modern type of what they call endpoint protection that uses artificial intelligence, because people are sitting at home and they're accessing corporate data, and the home offices, they're just not secure like the company offices are.
No, they're not.
All the firewalls are not so good. They're consumer grade, and you might be using shared equipment. You might be sharing your computer with your your partner, your other people in your families, and what have you, and you just never know what's going on. So they should be like bumping up the security level of what they normally have. So just some couple of tips. I don't know if that helps.
No, I think that does help for a lot of folks out there. It's still a lot to keep track of, and not everyone is as cyber literate or technically savvy as you, right? Or some of us out there. I mean, even some of this, I guess I'm kind of basic tech savvy, but there's a lot of things I know I miss on a regular basis, and it worries me. Is there also, would there be do you recommend that people start, or families or households, particularly with people working remotely? You were talking about antivirus software. Do people need to also start doing things like signing up for different services, like LifeHack or something like that, or LifeLock, I think is one of those businesses. Yeah. I mean, do people need to start doing that, or on a regular basis, kind of being on a standard plan to protect themselves and their data?
I'm doing it. I think that make sure you got a good backup. So this goes back to when IT first started. Make sure you got a good backup. There's a lot of really good backup packages out there that you can just sign up for and go with. Even like Dropbox and all those guys have decent backup plans, and they just back up your data right to the cloud. So yes, definitely sign up for backup services. Make sure all your data is protected. And I love the idea of signing up for LifeLock, which is now owned by Norton. And it's great, and they monitor cards, and they monitor your bank accounts, and they make sure that no one's got your social security number on the dark web. And I mean, the only problem I have with it is it's kind of expensive. But
that's the other thing. Yeah, I know that's the other thing, and not a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there that can't afford that layer. So I guess it's just being kind of increasingly smart and having those backups. This is all very useful information. It is. As I was saying earlier, it is stressful. But
I don't want to keep you up at night, but I do think that take half an hour and put in place what you need to put in place to feel a little bit more protected. I think that would really help.
Yeah, I think it takes sometimes I've done these. I've been through these exercises where we'll just take a whole weekend and just look, kind of do some housekeeping.
Yeah.
Just look at all the different laptops, look at all the different systems that we have all around the house, and just do an audit. Sometimes it literally takes a whole weekend, just to kind of do that stuff.
Yeah. And if you go, depending on how deep you go. Yes.
How deep you go. Yeah. Hanan, right? Hanan Landa, who is CEO of Optimal Networks, optimalnetworks.com. He's also author of The Modern Law Firm, How to Thrive in an Era of Rapid Technological Change. We have to have you back. Gotta definitely continue this conversation. We don't have enough cybersecurity conversations on air, and they're just so important. That's just we were just talking about misinformation, disinformation spreading online, and had to deal with that earlier this morning. So yeah, we'll bring you back on. Thanks so much, Hannah. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
All right, take care. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get into a Philadelphia Citizens. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're going to open up the phone lines, and then I think Philadelphia Citizens segment comes up in the noon hour. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back.
Did you know that March is National Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month? Colon cancer is the third most diagnosed cancer in both men and women, but for African Americans, 20% are more likely to get colorectal cancer and about 40% more likely to die from it than most other groups. For more information, go to getscreened.org. That's getscreened.org. Plus, stay tuned for more information on our up-and-coming Go to Know campaign for the WURD listening audience. Small business owners are navigating an evolving small business landscape brought on by coronavirus. However, their resilience is reflected in Bank of America's 2020 Small Business Owner Report, a nationwide survey on 1,000 small business owners, which found that nearly 1/4 of small business owners took steps in 2020 to retool their offerings and/or leverage their resources to support relief efforts in their communities. While many saw an impact in their bottom line last year, small business owners anticipate a strong post-pandemic environment, and 79% believe small businesses will return to be the backbone of the U.S. economy. Inspired by the small business owners facing unprecedented challenges, Bank of America continues their commitment to help small business owners in Philadelphia with the necessary resources to sustain and grow. For more information, visit bankofamerica.com. Enterprise Exterminators, located 4943 Wayne Avenue, specializing in lantern flies, termites, bed bugs, fleas, mice, and roaches. Do-it-yourself kits are available. Call now, 215-849-7070.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Also, extending that conversation we were having earlier with the Philadelphia Water Commissioner. And just for those who don't know, Philadelphia Water Department is extending the freeze on shutoffs for residential customers until April 2022. So many people out there may already be aware of that. So no shutoffs are supposed to happen until April 2022. For customers enrolled in the Tiered Assistance Program or Senior Citizen Discount Program, there will be no penalties or enforcement measures until April 1, 2022. For customers not in these assistance programs, penalties for overdue water bills will start on May 1st, 2021. Enforcement measures, including referrals to collections agencies, will go into effect August 2nd. So no shutoffs for Philadelphia Water Department customers until April 2022. That's April 2022. That's April of next year. No shutoffs should be happening until next year. But there will be penalties for overdue water bills starting on May 1st, 2021. But they shouldn't be shutting off. And if you're getting shutoffs, you need to let us know. You need to let your member of city council and your state rep, state senator know. You need to let them know right away. Go to phila.gov/water to learn about those upcoming hearings and about the upcoming rate hike. Philly is on that top list. It's on that top 12 list that I saw in terms of like those water poverty cities and also where water bills are. We are dealing with that in a very alarming way in a number of cities, in all the major cities, and it's crushing, it's squeezing vulnerable residents, and it's something that we're getting to the point where bad enough we have like water quality, water cleanliness issues and water toxicity issues, but we're getting to the point where we're seeing a world on the horizon where millions of people will not have access to water because of like increasing water bills. And I hear that, yes, he is correct. There is a water infrastructure problem, and investments must be made. Let's hope we get those investments from the federal government. But I've seen some interesting comments, and I'll get to those in a moment, on Facebook Live. People are making some very good points about just keeping a better eye on agencies like the Water Department, seeing if they're really being efficient enough. What sorts of contracts are they entering to? How are they spending their money? How does the city conduct oversight of that? How does the city council conduct oversight over that? There's a lot of questions out there. Let me go to Rick out of Germany, who's calling in for a reality check. Mr. Rick?
Good afternoon, Brother Charles. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rick. It's good to hear your voice.
It's good to be alive another day.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I've called into your show. I've expressed my desire to see some of those who want to be vaccinated get the vaccination, but I also want to express in this moment that we have real cause for concern and caution with this vaccine. The Johnson & Johnson thing, I am very suspicious of, but I believe somebody has to take the vaccine to see that the government and the pharmaceutical companies are walking in the right direction. And I believe it's experimental. They're not saying this to people. They're pushing it towards them as if it's a sure thing, and it is not. It is experimental. And I think the public needs to know that.
I mean, this is the we are seeing vaccine being developed for a highly contagious, highly viral disease in record time. We've never seen vaccines developed in this record pace at any point in human history. So it does, yes, it does warrant. Thank you, Mr. Rick, for calling in, and please be well. It does warrant further investigation. It does warrant, like I was calling, the side eye, and just making sure that you guys are armed with much information and correct, truthful, fact-based or data-based information as possible when we're asking those questions. So I agree with Mr. Rick on that account. And, understand that companies, particularly pharmaceutical companies like Johnson & Johnson, because of things that have happened in the past, they know that they are under an intense amount of public scrutiny, policymaker scrutiny, and regulatory scrutiny. They are under an enormous amount, and especially since there have been lawsuits that people have won in recent years against Johnson & Johnson. So they're not trying to create any more liability or litigation issues and lose more money so you have that element of it. There's a level of resources and awareness that that's the one thing that kind of gives us the advantage now that we didn't have back then, is just a level of access and awareness and resources that we've never had before in all of human history. Now, in some respects, that's an Achilles heel, because we've got so much information, we've got so much data, we've got so much conversation and perspective and voices to sift through that, there's that misinformation, disinformation element that slips through the cracks. So it's kind of an Achilles heel too. And so we have to take advantage of those resources. We have to know exactly, okay, well, who are the regulators we talk to? Who are the policymakers? Who are the persons who oversee, for example, those congressional committees? And maybe that's a conversation that needs to come up at some time, where we tap those congressional committees that oversee, or members on congressional committees that oversee those pharmaceutical companies, because you have them, and they have to watch, and they're conducting oversight. So we had Dr. Nicolette Lewis-Saint, who comes on regularly, and she was saying how our community needs to get more involved on these review boards, these various institutional review boards, the research institutions that are doing the research or conducting the research and developing vaccines, and there are open slots, like, community slots, or slots that, community members can join, or members of the community, representatives of the community can join to be a part of those conversations as vaccines for different types of diseases are being developed. But at the end of the day, we need higher science literacy. At the end of the day, we need science. to combat a wide range of medical ailments and diseases, and especially us as the Black community, we're racked not just with pandemic, but with high levels of chronic disease, and we got to figure that out, and we have to use science, and we need more of our people, and not just becoming just the doctors, but also becoming medical researchers and scientists, so we can engage that community better, and we also have better control over our fate and our agency and destiny. That's the way we go about it. Not spreading lies. Like, that's not the way to go about it. The way to go about it is get more of your folks, encourage your young people to get into the sciences and get into the medical research fields. All right? Like, that's the way to go about it. Let me go to Derek out of Colorado real quick, who's calling in for a reality check. Derek, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, Charles. I want to make a real quick comment. Then I have a question. The comment, the first comment is that they had some show here was talking about Trump and when he went in there and the insurrection, everything else like that. They were talking about stop the steal, and I was just saying, and they said, 5 people wound up losing their lives because people did not know, or they chose not to. He spread all these lies, and people wound up dying. So you did the right thing with that guy, okay?
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that, Derek. Thank you.
No, I really do. And the next one is on the water thing. I'm not from Philadelphia. Where does Philadelphia get their water from?
The Delaware River primarily. Yeah.
So it means it's pretty polluted and everything when it gets there?
There's a lot of pollution issues, pollution and stormwater management issues with water quality in Philadelphia. That's another conversation. That's a whole, you open up a can of worms with that. Yeah. But rivers, the Delaware is the main river, because you got the Delaware River Basin, and you got not just Philly, but all these other mid-Atlantic states sharing that water or the water sources or other, there's another river that flows through Philly called the Schuylkill, but yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, I really appreciate you pointing out to that guy, and because I still remember that when I saw that last night on PBS, and it talked about 5 people, and how many other people wound up getting stabbed and killed because deliberate misinformation.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
And one
it's
thing
dangerous.
One thing, I'm going to let you go after this, is one thing they may want to have to do, they may have to make it, maybe they push this, is start doing civics classes so people understand, so they're not going crazy and they're not understanding things. They really need to start pushing that, if anything else.
That's true. Thank you for that, Derek. I mean, we just had 8 people die yesterday. 8 people needlessly die because of nefarious, sinister, conspiracy theory laden information. Just total baseless lies, like just BS. People die because of BS. And it's I'm not going to apologize for it. If somebody's coming on here or on a big outlet like this and wants to continue to spread that kind of bad information, like baseless, false information, they're going to get hung up on. Sorry. Well, no, I'm not. I don't know why I keep saying sorry for that. I'm not sorry for that. It's called harm reduction and risk mitigation, and that's just what we had to do. Real quick, let me go to Bree out of Germantown, who's calling in for a reality check. Bree?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing, Miss Bree?
Good. How are you?
Hanging in there.
Okay, I just want to make a comment about the water situation, how they're going to raise the bills for the water. And I didn't hear the entire conversation, but I was wondering if the infrastructure that they're going to repair, is that going to solve the polluted water problem? Because at one point, I was hearing that the water in Philadelphia was just as bad or worse as the water in Flint, Michigan. And I was wondering if that infrastructure fix is going to stop the polluted water properly. Because I didn't hear that conversation. I didn't hear what he said about that.
Yeah, he didn't, and we didn't have enough time to. I had that thought too. It would. One of the reasons why you have high levels of lead in Philadelphia water is because of that aging infrastructure, or aged. It's not even aging; it's just aged. And so that was one of the reasons why you had, one of the reasons, not the full reason why you had that crisis in Flint, or you had that crisis in Jackson, Mississippi. you just have to have aging infrastructure. It's just, it's all in all these major cities. And so, fixing that infrastructure and putting in like modern sewage lines and piping, et cetera, would help mitigate or reduce that problem. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there's more questions about that. Philadelphia is an old city, and one of the reasons why we have high levels of like water toxicity and lead in the water, and that's something that I feel like, but I wanted to focus on the water rate hike, and so I want to bring him back on and other folks on to talk about that other issue, which is, you're right, is the pollution in Philly water. I know that they're about to, there's like $100 million Delaware River pollution facility that that the water department is opening, that they're moving forward on to handle some of those pollution issues coming out of the Delaware River. But yeah, that's a big problem. Thanks for raising that, Bree.
The only other thing I wanted to say was, and maybe that gentleman is still listening, like maybe they should do water quality now versus water quality after the repairs are done, and maybe have some outside agencies test the water also and give a annual report or biannual report for the people of Philadelphia who are paying for this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think water department could go about this. You too, Bree. Thank you. Thank you for that. Let me, I actually have to take a break because we have our next guest on hold for the upcoming Philly Citizen segment that we do. Typically, we do this every couple of weeks. So let me take a quick break, and we will be right back.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Okay, Her's new fire potato chips and cheese curls, they are spicy. Whew, they're hottest snacks yet. Hold on. Whew. But it's not just heat. There's some nice sweet and savory stuff going on too. Ooh, there's that heat again. It burns, but it burns so tasty. Ooh, that's hot. Find Her's Fire Snacks at your store today. Whew. Taste the flavor, feel the heat, break out the Her's.
The WURD Radio newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting wordradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on WURD Radio, messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources. Stay informed with the WURD Radio newsletter. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Independent Black Media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison. Right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, thanks for everyone's patience. If my laptop went out, I wasn't paying attention to the power. I had to get a plug. Notice it wasn't plugged in. So welcome back, everyone. Thanks for your patience. We head into our bi-weekly Citizen segment, which we do in conjunction with the Philadelphia Citizen. Go to thephiladelphiacitizen.org for more information, great content, as well as some great features and great information there. Joining us now, I have by phone, I understand, Stormy Kelsey. She's the program coordinator at Poppin. She's going to tell me exactly, she's going to tell you what Poppin means, what they're all about. And it's a program at Temple University focused on getting more black youth engaged in multimedia and broadcast broadcast journalism. I'm also told I didn't get the last name for the other person who is on the line, so maybe we can get her last name as well, Amina. And Amina's last name is, do I have you both there?
I'm here. Stormy's here.
All right, excellent. So so I have Stormy Kelsey and Amina. What's your last name?
Amina Whitaker.
Okay, got it. Amina Whitaker. Okay, thanks so much. And so let's click, Stormy. I'll start with you. Talk about Poppin. What Poppin stands for, and who are you focused on? You're focused on young Philadelphians, and they're showing their perspective, or on a number of issues, or highlighting, kind of the positive activities that they're involved in, or some of the positive things that are happening in their lives and in a city like Philadelphia.
Yes, thank you so much for having us on today. And yeah, we're really excited to be talking about Poppin. So Poppin stands for Presenting Our Perspective on Philly Youth News. And it's, as you said, it's a youth media program, youth-led media program that started off as, focusing in on highlighting the positive things that young people have been doing in their communities. And since then, we've kind of just developed that idea a little bit further and got a little deeper with it, because we realized that not everything that young people in their communities are experiencing is positive. So we also cover a range of different social justice issues that might be impacting communities, and certainly communities of color, low-income communities as well.
Amina, are you a coordinator, or are you a student in this program? Talk about, from your perspective, how this has been going.
Okay, so I'm a student in the program, and yeah, I joined Poppin at the beginning of my high school journey.
Okay.
And, yeah.
You're currently in what actual grade are you in right now?
I'm in 11th grade.
11. Okay, got it. And how's it been going? Have you been learning new things while being in Poppin, in the collaborative? As you become, what sorts of new things have you been learning? Real quick.
Yeah. So Poppin has taught me how to use my voice to express things that I feel deeply about. So if there are ever any social issues or any issues in schools that I see, I've been able to go to Poppin and create media to express how I feel about those issues and how I can determine solutions for those issues.
Right. And for those folks, should go to thephiladelphiacitizen.org, and we're talking with Amina Whitaker, who's a student in the Poppin program, and you can get more information, and that's Presenting Our Perspectives on Philly Youth News. You can get more information at uccollab.org. I think that's where you can go. Is that correct, Stormy? Where can people go if they want to get information on Poppin, or they want to get involved in Poppin? How can students sign up for it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have our website, uccollab at or .org, sorry.
That's all right.
We have a lot of information about our program, and that is the collaborative is the name of the overarching organization, so it's an umbrella organization. And within the organization, there are 3 programs, and Poppin is one of the programs that focuses in on specifically media, but they're all youth leadership programs.
Got it.
And so if people are interested in getting involved, we have social media. We have almost every social media platform, so we can be reached people can reach out to us through, Twitter or Instagram, DM us if they're interested in being involved. High school students usually is the demographic, but sometimes we have middle schoolers, like 8th graders, but usually we are solely working with high school students. And we also have an interest form on our website if students are interested in being involved. And we also hire, so it's not just high school students that we work with. We have college students who facilitate the program, and we prefer students who, or they don't necessarily have to be in college, but typically we have college students who are facilitating, and we also have an interest form on our website for that as well.
Yeah. The other thing too, and for folks who want to learn more about Poppin, they can also check out this Philadelphia Citizen feature. Go to philadelphiacitizen.org. It's entitled A New News Narrative, and it gives you the story of Poppin and how it came about. Stormy, talk about that too, about how you evolved into this focus on the positive news or the positive conversations coming from Philadelphia teens. Why that's so important, because especially as we're going through this gun violence epidemic, this state of emergency in the city with gun violence, and obviously the conversation naturally focuses on, okay, well, what are young people doing, how young people are involved in that level of violence, and so why is this important? Why is it so important to contrast that conversation with, more positive perspectives and conversations?
Yeah, I think that one thing I just want to say really quickly is, like, those issues are very real and they do need to be talked about, right? But there is an imbalance in the narrative. So Poppin was formed in 2011, and it was during a time where young people were congregating in the downtown area, or when it was called the Gallery, now the Fashion District, and there were some instances of random acts of violence which were being framed as flash mobs on mainstream news and national news. And so there was like this big image of, Philadelphia youth being violent criminals. They need to be policed. They don't need to be on the streets. They need curfews. There was just like this really, really horrible framing of all Philadelphia youth pretty much, and like creating this fear around young people in our city. And so the originators of this program, they, again, it's acknowledging like, yeah, those instances did happen. But where are the cameras? Where are the camera crews? And where's the media attention when young people are actually doing positive things for their community? Right. And so this program was formed as like a counter narrative to that negative representation. And so they started off. This was before my time, of course. So they started off covering, different things that were happening in their neighborhoods, like food drives or dance rehearsals, or local musicians, things like that. And over time, we developed a more critical lens to really start addressing things like youth homelessness. The lack of like LGBTQ representation in schools and media and institutions, and and all the things. Environmental racism, gentrification. These very real things that are impacting our young people in our communities.
You also had this documentary that came out right before the pandemic, Call Out for Change, Breaking the School to Prison Pipeline. That's real insightful and, just a really dynamic documentary, you're talking, which we need to shed light on more. We need to talk about that more. Philadelphia is one of those cities. I mean, it's on a top 20 list of cities with high student suspension and expulsion rates. And so, and that's something, especially as a majority black public school system, it's something we need to shed light on and highlight more. I mean, I want to go back to you. So you were also talking about in this article about how you were, looking for work, looking for a job, then you found out about Poppin. And, talk about that. Talk about some of the things that you do as a part, because, and you can, kind of go into like, well, some of the benefits that you get out of that, in terms of stipends and credit and volunteer hours. I mean, there's a number, but what are some of the other benefits? What is some of the work that you've been doing while you've been with Poppin?
So at first I was like, so when I went into Poppin, I felt like I didn't have like a whole lot of experience in media.
Right.
which is sort of what I feared. But I actually ended up learning a lot about how to work with cameras, and I've been interested in photography for a while. So I actually got to explore the different types of cameras. I got to use different types of mics. I learned how to set up tripods, how to take certain pictures, learn about certain angles. And with that, I could take that with me. So eventually when I got my own camera, I had all that knowledge that I gained from Poppin.
Right.
So, yeah, I learned to work with a lot of technology, but I also learned, great communication and networking skills, learned how to connect with other people. I learned, what it took to be, a good interviewer as well as a good interviewee. So, yeah, my communication and problem-solving skills just, increased greatly when I became Poppin.
Got it. Has that changed in any way, sort of your thoughts about what you're looking forward to doing in the future, or certain types of professions or paths that you're interested in for the future?
Yeah. So I was interested in I became deeply interested in journalism. But of course that would be a broad field. So there's so much I could do with journalism and communication studies. But I'm also really interested in mathematics, and eventually I learned that the two fields could correlate with each other. So yeah, with communications and media, I learned about the different careers that are open for being able to include math, but also journalism. So financial analyzing, data analyzing, stuff like that. But also if I wanted to pursue photography and stuff like that, I could still do that. So yeah, Poppin has just broadened my interest, and it made me more curious about the whole study of media.
Did you worked on that? Were you also working on that documentary, that Breaking the School to Prison Pipeline, the Call Out for Change? Had you also with specific projects? Okay, you worked on that, and I think you were describing how, I guess in a way, you've been living through a school system like Philadelphia's, but it just for you, it was sort of a major moment, right? Because now you sort of started learning more. You started seeing the data about how all of this plays out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very interesting because, as I did more research, it was wow, this is a really big issue. And even though I didn't know too much about it, it actually was affecting me a lot, and also affecting my friends, the people around me. It affects all of us. And we don't realize, how serious these issues are until we actually address them.
Wow. Stormy, talk about that too, about, sort of where many students like Amina, where they end up going, or certain fields or tracks of study that they end up getting more interested in or heading towards, is there, or the types of schools that they start looking at, how much of an impact Poppin has, not just on their immediate kind of and keeping them engaged as they're in high school, but, it sort of puts them on a whole new path and a whole new journey.
Yeah, so with a lot of our participants in our program, some of them come in without having, Amina, not having much media experience. And then throughout being in the program and working on different projects and segments, they do develop an interest. So we have some students who have gone off to pursue journalism at different universities, Howard University, Clark Atlanta, and Temple, of course. We have a mix, but we don't necessarily try to steer them in that direction per se. We just allow them to just explore their interests. So some students have gone on to culinary school, and some students don't think that college or higher education is for them. So then they become entrepreneurs. So there's definitely a different path that young people in our program take based on what their own personal interests are. But I think they always take the media with them in some capacity. They're always thinking about how they can incorporate media in the work or whatever they're doing, and also thinking about like media literacy. So even if they're not necessarily utilizing media, they're thinking about how they're consuming media in different ways.
Yeah, and it's such a media-intensive world, right? And
right.
So another thing too, a lot of people maybe not realizing that they're watching pop-in programming when they go to, when every Thursday I think you air many of these videos on Philadelphia's public access channel.
Yeah.
Comcast 66, Verizon 29, and so that's like 5:30 p.m. every Thursday. You can watch some of this work product from these students. And is there a limited number of slots for young people to get involved in Poppin'? I mean, how do you organize student participation? Is it by season, by cohorts? How can people sign up? Is it free? Does it cost money? People are going to ask those questions.
It is absolutely free. You do not have to pay anything.
Great.
And there is not an official limit. We try to keep our programs to about, during normal times, quote unquote normal times. We had about 12 to 13 students. But now that we're online, just because Zoom can be a bit frustrating to manage, with a larger group of students, we try to keep it to about, 8. A smaller group, about 8 students. But there is no cap, and if anyone's interested, they can definitely reach out to us on social media or fill out the interest form, as I said before. And if they want to know, you don't just have to watch our media on Philly Cam's public access channel. We also have our videos available on YouTube. All of our content is available on YouTube at What's Poppin'.
And this is primarily for middle school to high school age students. They must live in Philadelphia. Can young people from surrounding counties, can they participate in the program as well?
Not really.
Okay, got it.
Based on our funding, we're primarily serving students.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense. We've been talking with Stormy Kelsey. She's the program coordinator for Poppin', presenting our perspectives on Philly youth news. I like that. And you can get more information. Once again, that's UC Collab. Do I have it correct, Stormy? UCcollab.org.
Yeah, UCcollab.org. Yep.
Great to get more. Where are you on social media, by the way?
We're on Instagram at What's Poppin', Twitter at What's Poppin', Facebook Poppin', and YouTube What's Poppin'.
And,
so all
and when people ask,
here.
Right, and that's Poppyn. In case you're wondering, like, how is Poppin' spelled? This is a fantastic program. I like this. I mean, just in terms of keeping young people engaged, because that's part of it too. Like, folks want to, many of us in the older generations will complain about young people, but it's like, well, what are we doing to keep, what sorts of initiatives or programs or spaces are we creating to keep young people engaged, particularly in a city like Philadelphia? What sort of activities? And this is, I like this. I like where you're headed with it, Stormy. Amina, great work, by the way, too. With the documentary on the school to prison pipeline. So I've actually shared that with a couple of folks. I want to share some with some more people. It's good to see from a student perspective, kind of what your thoughts are on, a continuous problem, persistent problem in the public schools. Amina Whitaker is a student. She's a participant in Poppin'. We've been talking with them. They've been featured in the PhiladelphiaCitizen.org. It's entitled A New News Narrative. Go to the PhiladelphiaCitizen.org. Catherine Rappin actually wrote that piece in the Philadelphia Citizen. Thank you both. Really appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
All right, excellent. All right, be safe out there. Okay, let's take a break, and when we come back on the other side, we have Mark Steer, who is the executive director of the Keystone Research Center. He focuses on the Pennsylvania budget, so I have some questions about that. Obviously, we wanted to bring him back on. And so Mark Steer is coming up next here on Reality Check. Also, don't forget to go to WURDradio.com, WURDradio.com, to learn more about our three-city Level Up contest. That's happening right now. The nomination submissions deadline was extended to this Friday, March 19th, and essentially this is we're teaming up with cities, like WVON in Chicago, KGLA in Los Angeles, and also us, WURD, all black-owned outlets, black-owned radio outlets, talk radio outlets. And so we're highlighting black women-owned businesses this Women's History Month. You can nominate yourself or your favorite black-owned woman business and enter to win a marketing campaign that is valued at $5,000. So that's a pretty good marketing campaign, especially when you're going to have people helping you who know what they're doing. So you might want to sign up for that. Submissions have now been extended to March 19th. Go to wordradio.com for more information on that. Let me take a break, and we'll be right back here on Reality Check.
COVID-19 has highlighted the need for digital equity and internet adoption programs. Comcast's Internet Essentials program is designed to connect families to low-cost, high-speed internet and laptops so students can be ready for anything. Since 2011, Comcast has connected 4 million students from low-income families to the internet through its Internet Essentials program. Learn more about how Internet Essentials is connecting students.
Hey there, all you ashy folk. I got the solution for your ashy skin. Nubian K Essentials all natural body lotions at www.nubiankessentials.com. Also found at Hakeem's, 210 South 52nd Street, the Wayne Avenue Health Store, 5007 Wayne Avenue, and Cultural Exchange, 1450 Point Breeze Avenue. Or go to www.nubiankessentials.com and kiss your ashy skin goodbye.
The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's new monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. For April, WURD Radio is partnering with the Free Library of Philadelphia and showcasing their pick for its annual citywide reading program, One Book, One Philadelphia, entitled The Tradition by Jericho Brown. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, April 13th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, breaking news actually coming from the National Weather Service. They have declared an exceptionally rare high-risk outlook for severe thunderstorms throughout the southeast and southern mid-Atlantic, and that will happen there. That severe or high-risk outlook for severe thunderstorms was issued today, but it's for tomorrow. It's an extremely dangerous. This is the way the National Weather Service is describing it, and this is very important because this is very rare. The National Weather Service has not issued this type of warning since 2012. So we may have listeners who are in the southeast, lower mid-Atlantic. We may even feel, as we go further up northeast, in the cities like Philadelphia, we may feel some of the impact of that. But it's being described as an extremely dangerous severe weather outbreak. It's expected Wednesday across a large swath of the south with violent long-track tornadoes. Listen to that again. This is all climate crisis, all coming into play. Long-track tornadoes, destructive winds, and large damaging hail. The threat is going to shift to the southeast and southern mid-Atlantic on Thursday, and the National Weather Service Prediction Center has declared a very rare level 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 high risk of severe thunderstorms, and there will be of what they're saying exceptional intensity, and it's just going to be really bad. And we're talking about people, especially from Texas to Georgia, are at risk of the most severe weather on Wednesday, and with 1.5 million residents in the top tier high risk zones. So that's the breaking news coming out of the National Weather Service. That is something we have to pay very close attention to, and particularly for listeners and viewers who are in those areas, and also just getting people in the mid-Atlantic and parts of the lower Northeast prepared. We could probably feel some of the impact of that as well. So we'll just keep an eye on it. It's a developing story. We have Joining us now, you can watch him on WURD TV as well. He's joined us by Skype. Mark Steer, Executive Director of the Keystone Research Center. And you can, for more information on this Keystone Research Center, home of the Pennsylvania Budget and Policy Center, go to keystoneresearch.org for more there. Mark, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, Charles. Thanks for having me on.
All right, good. Good to have you back, too. You've been watching very closely the pandemic relief, the American Rescue Plan, and I think about how much billions of dollars. I've seen estimates ranging from $14 billion to $18 billion that Pennsylvania were receiving. What's the full price tag of federal monies that Pennsylvania is receiving?
Well, if we just look at what is coming to the state government, it's about $7 billion to the state government. Local governments are going to get about $5 billion.
Okay.
But then there's a lot of money coming into individuals. 6-7 million people are going to get checks of $1,400.
Okay.
Lots of people are going to get money in child care benefits. So there's people who get health insurance on the exchanges are going to see their premiums go down.
Okay.
That's all federal money. So there are a lot of big benefits. You got to remember, this $1.9 trillion is like half the size of the federal budget. This is a huge stimulus package.
Yeah.
It's a major, major thing for the whole country.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that until you just said that just now, because you're absolutely right. Because, I mean, you're looking at somewhere from a $4 to $5 trillion normal federal budget, annual federal budget. Yeah, that is about half of that. And so, do you feel like, I mean, this is an adequate enough money at this time? You feel like, I mean, it is going to do things like cut child poverty in half, significantly reduce poverty? What's sort of your first impression take of it as to the positives and the negatives?
Well, we think it's really hugely important, and we think it really will have an impact on lifting us out of the recession created by the pandemic.
Yeah.
We're expecting a pretty strong economic recovery, and that will benefit really everyone from top to bottom on the income scale, and it's going to help state revenues and local revenues. I mean, you look at things like unemployment insurance continuing. That's 640,000 Pennsylvanians, over 10% of the workers in the state who are facing a cutoff of benefits. They're going to keep getting it. I said 6 million Pennsylvanians are going to get $4.8 billion in direct payments from the federal government. Child care, about 90% of the children under 18 are going to benefit from the expansion of the child tax credit. You know, people who are progressives have been wanting to create a universal child benefit in this country, the way every other civilized country in the world has, and many, low-income countries put in the money because they know how important children are. And we finally have achieved it. Now, we've only achieved it for 2 years. Whether that continues or not depends on what people decide to do in 2022 in the election. But we're there. And it's a big, big thing for all the children of this country, particularly for those in low-income families, but not just, everyone.
Got it. We're talking with Mark Steer, who's Executive Director, Keystone Research Center and Pennsylvania Budget and Policy Center. Actually, the main site you want to go to, because these two are kind of merged, krc-pbpc.org. And you got a couple of websites out there, Mark, but the main one.
That's right. That's the main one now.
Is krc-pbpc.org. I got lots of information there. That $7 billion that goes directly to the state, I mean, what's that money being used for? Can that be used for closing state budget gaps?
State budget gaps. Unlike the CARES Act money, which up until the end was not for that purpose, I think we're going to have a fight in the state about how to spend that money.
Yeah.
I think we talked before about the governor's bold budget proposal on education and on fixing the tax system. We're going to call for carrying that out. We may not need to raise the taxes to pay for it, but we have money to make big investments in education, to make our education funding fairer. We should keep doing that. We should use some of the money to help small businesses. But, we're going to say to folks, if you're going to help small businesses, you need to raise the minimum wage and make sure that working people are getting the benefit of this economic recovery.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I wonder, though, as far as the transparency level, right, the transparency of keeping, the effort that needs to go into keeping track of that money. What's your thoughts on that, Mark? I did have the Pennsylvania State Treasurer on earlier this morning. I don't know. She's trying to reassure us that they're going to maintain transparency, but so she was talking about there's like 500, and I just need to know where all these pockets of money are going. Like, one is like, is there going to be sort of like a central place that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is going to create that everyone can go to and see, okay, oh, that's where that money's going. Oh, that's where that money they were talking about, I read about or I heard about on the news recently. I just don't see that effort happening.
I think you're right. And I tell you, I don't know whether the state of Pennsylvania is going to do it, but we're going to do it. We just started a project as of Friday. I have a staff member and half on it right now. First of all, we want to know what are all the big pockets of money. What can they be used for? Who decides? Who controls them? And then we'll track where the money goes. Now, I don't know if we're going to get to every last dollar, but when about $7 million, we're going to have a wish list, and then we're going to say this is how the state uses the money. So go to our website. We're going to be posting. They're going to be complicated spreadsheets, but the information is going to be there. We're going to try to make it as digestible as possible. Yes. Because you're right. We've got to make sure that how this money is spent reflects what Pennsylvanians want, and that the money goes in the right places.
Yeah, are you worried about? I'm worried about like kind of a sort of subtle bait and switch where, like, on one hand, governments, state and municipal governments in a state like Pennsylvania, state, and is getting a lot of money. On one hand, they say, oh, hey, we're excited, we're celebrating the infusion or the disbursement of all these federal dollars. We really did well, in the this round of federal stimulus. So on one hand, they're saying that, but then on the other hand, they're like, oh, sorry, we got to raise taxes, or we got to raise your water bill. Sorry about that. Like, it was like, what happened to all that money you guys are talking about that you get, like, to fill these budget gaps? Like, why are you suddenly raising my taxes or raising my utility rates?
Well, I think we're going to have to be on people. Now, look, I don't think we're going to see state tax increases anytime soon, because I think we have this money, and that's going to get us through closing the big hole. Look, we've lost huge amounts of state tax revenues because of the economic crisis. Yeah. We're looking at like $5 billion in cuts in taxes and $3 billion in additional spending, mostly for Medicaid, because of the pandemic. So we're in a deep hole. So a lot of money is going to go to that. But I think some of the money should go out to improve various programs like education. I think giving low-income people grants in lieu of the tax cuts the government proposed is a good idea. Yeah. And we're going to track all that. Now, the other thing I want to say is, at some point down the line, we're going to need a tax increase in Pennsylvania. But it shouldn't be a tax increase that low and moderate income people pay. Right. We have the most upside-down tax system in the world. Really, I mean, people at the bottom, people with an average income of $13,000, the bottom 20%, pay 13% of their income in taxes. People in the top 1% with an average income of $1.6 million in the state pay half that rate in state and local taxes. Wow. So at some point, when the federal money runs out, we're going to need a tax increase, but it's time for rich people and the 73% of corporations that operate in Pennsylvania that pay zero to pay their fair share.
Education funding as well. I was having a conversation recently, moderating a conversation on WITF in Central Pennsylvania, Mark, and I was made aware, I was sort of refreshed on Pennsylvania has the 20th largest economy in the world, not in the country, in the world, but it ranks 44 in terms of equitable education funding. And so what this latest round, this is a big infusion of cash that Pennsylvania schools are receiving, especially on K through 12, to get schools. I mean, how is that money being used? Is it just going to be used to give schools better ventilation systems, or can we hope that this money can start to close those education inequity gaps, those education funding inequity gaps?
Well, the federal funding is going to be distributed according to Title I, and Title I will direct most of the money towards low and moderate schools with low and moderate income communities. But I think that there's that long-term problem you're talking about. We have really the most unequally funded schools in the country in terms of economic status. And, you know, the state gives about 33% more in state funding to schools with predominantly white students than predominantly black students. That's a result of a long history that we haven't overcome in this state. Yeah. So we're going to be calling on the state to start moving in the direction that Governor Wolf suggested, running most of the money for basic education funding through the formula, the fair funding formula, and redirecting that money to schools in which the parents tend to have lower incomes and tend to be more likely to be black and Hispanic than white. Mm-hmm. We've got to fix this education equity problem. And we know there's going to be resistance from the General Assembly because they see this as just one-time money, but we see this as money that we can be using to invest in the future of our educational system and start moving towards a more equitable system, because what we have now is horrible, and that hurts everyone. You know, the biggest resource we have in this state is our kids and their talents and their abilities. And if we don't let every kid use his talents and abilities to the best that they can, we're all losing out. So this is critical.
Yeah, no, it really is. Mark, and so what about monies from the second stimulus? Because that's one of the other topics I was talking about with the PA Treasurer, the Pennsylvania Treasurer, Stacey Garrity. They're sending 500. So we're already getting the American Rescue Plan money. And then, but there's still money left over from the $900 billion stimulus at the end of the Trump administration from December. She was talking about they're transferring right now as we speak over, like it was like $553 million into the counties for rental assistance, utility assistance. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, it's like all this, suddenly we just start hearing, you know, one day you don't hear anything about it, and then suddenly, oh yeah, we've got a big pot of money here, and we're just going to start. I always get, it's great that people are going to get rental utility assistance. It's just like keeping track of the money. I mean, do you know that there's still second stimulus round and even CARES Act money that's out there?
Yeah. The Senate bill, I think it was 209, finally appropriated the rest of the CARES Act money, and we pushed really hard for more funding for housing, because I think we talked about this last time it was on, that there was a housing program and it was a disaster, and you know, they appropriated $175 million, only $10 million of it was spent because it was so badly designed. Well, we think there's a much better program, there's a lot more money, so we've got to get that money in the hands of people, because there's a huge backlog of folks who have not been able to pay the rent and are facing eviction. So that is an important program. We'll be tracking that as well, because it's just starting. We don't know how well it's going to work, but you can be sure that our allies in our We the People campaign are watching very closely, because they represent the people who need this money.
Yeah, I want to watch it with you closely, Mark. So because we're going to bring you back on more frequently and often, because that's the thing. I think we want to make sure. Now, she did say this time, this rental assistance, utility assistance money, or this rental assistance money will not end up back in the or into the Pennsylvania correction system. She's saying it would just go, if there's any unused dollars out there, which I don't understand why there would be unused dollars in this moment with so much need out there. But she said if there's unused dollars for whatever reason, it would just go back to the state. And she assumes, but I think this is where you guys come in, because I don't think she was sure. She assumes that it would just recirculate back to them to push out as more rental assistance. So I wasn't too particularly, just based on her body language and the way she was answering that question, she wasn't too sure. So I guess it's just going to require some more follow-up from folks like you, and which I know you are going to do, and myself as well.
Yeah, well, she's new, and it's complicated. Let's put it that way.
Oh, she's new. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. Okay.
But we will be watching that, because when we called the failure of the last program to the governor's attention, and they tried to make it right. There were limits in what they could do under the law, and we finally got a much better program put in place. We think, you know, we're going to watch. We don't know for sure.
Are you in touch with the new Pennsylvania treasurer?
No, I haven't talked with her yet. No.
Okay, got it. So, but let's keep that conversation going. So, because I think she was surprised and a little bit unprepared, but you know, she soldiered through it for some of those questions, and so now that explains it. Yeah, she's relatively new. So I've been paying much attention to who's been, like, you know, kind of doing the whole normal government musical chairs thing in and out of the Treasury's office. But it was good we had her on, but it was good at the end of the show because she was at the top. And a great way to end this, end our interview segments, this Wednesday edition with Mark Steer He is executive director of the Keystone Research Center and Pennsylvania Budget and Policy Center. Go to krc-pbpc.org for more information. Mark, we're going to have you on more often. We've already talked about that. So as we keep track of this money.
Anytime, Charles. It's really critical what you're doing, helping people understand state government, because it's the hardest level of government to follow.
It is. It really is. All right, we'll keep on it. Thanks so much again, Mark. We'll talk to you soon. Be safe.
You too. Take care.
All right. Take care. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back on the other side, we'll just have phone lines open as we close out this Wednesday midday edition of Reality Check. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Jefferson Health offers no-cost COVID-19 testing sites at St. Raymond of Pinafort Church. Testing is on Thursdays and Saturdays. The second testing location has been added at Richard Allen Preparatory Charter School. Testing is on Wednesdays and Fridays. For testing hours and more information, visit jeffersonhealth.org/community testing.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Tune in to More Than That with Gia Peppers, live this Sunday, March 21st at 1 p.m. or wherever you listen to podcasts. This episode of More Than That is sponsored by Bounty, Charmin, and Puffs, who are committed to positive change.
This Women's History Month, WURD Radio is proud to celebrate Black women innovators and trailblazers who have helped us all level up.
Welcome to Black Art Story 365. My name is Envy McKee. Get into this episode where we explore the art and artistry of American-born French entertainer, French resistance agent, and civil rights activist Josephine Baker. In New York City during the Harlem Renaissance, she performed at the Plantation Club and in the chorus line of the groundbreaking and hugely successful Broadway revues Shuffle Along in 1921 and The Chocolate Dandies in 1924. Baker was billed at the time as the highest paid chorus girl in vaudeville. Goddess Jo sailed to Paris in October of 1925 to open La Revue Nègre. She became an instant success for her danse sauvage, what we call the banana skirt dance. I guess, well, everybody called it that. Josephine Baker was the most successful American entertainer working in France. So that's it for this episode of Black Art Story 365. My name is Envy McKee. See you next episode.
This Women's History Month vignette was brought to you by Comcast and Thomas Jefferson University and Jefferson Health.
WURD recognizes Black women innovators and entrepreneurs who are making history every day. Nominate a Black woman-owned business for our Level Up contest. Go to wordradio.com for more information. Brought to you by Bank of America, Comcast, Keystone First, PICO, Thomas Jefferson University, and Jefferson Health.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and wordradio.com.
Yes, welcome back. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. We had hit the ground running fairly strong this morning at the top of the Reality Check midday edition. We did not get a chance to, but I'm taking that chance now to express very deep condolences and sorrow to the family and friends of our very own Dr. Emma Chappell. She was one of the co-hosts of the Black Women's Leadership Council, one of my favorite shows, one of my favorite programs, my own personal favorites here on WURD. She co-hosts that with Joanne Bell, and also founder of United Bank of Philadelphia, one of, kind of the few remaining black banks in the state of Pennsylvania, really in the country these days. But so she was absolutely a pioneer in her own right. She was historic, a very historic figure in Philadelphia, but she transitioned. She's now an ancestor as of yesterday morning. So deepest condolences to her. And I know that there are people already in the WURD family and viewers and listeners who already are aware of that and what happened. And we appreciate those expressions of sorrow, but deeply she will be missed. I have not had a chance to see her in person during the entire course of this pandemic for obvious reasons. And so it's going to be really hard, coming back on the other side of this apocalypse that we're all going through, and people that we're going to miss, people we didn't get a chance to say goodbye to, people who went so early, right? And so there are going to be a lot of missing people, missing prominent figures in our lives when we're on the other side of this thing. And so it's just, for a variety of reasons, whether it's for COVID or for other causes, right? It's just like we just miss because we have to stay socially distanced. And so, it's just she's definitely going to be missed. I've enjoyed the few occasions that I've had an opportunity to be on a program with her. She was a lot of fun to be on air with, and just very smart, very sharp and insightful. So, and I'll miss her wisdom too. So just deepest condolences to Dr. Emma Chappelle, and but we do continue to celebrate her as an ancestor, along with other ancestors like Cody Anderson. But it has been a very difficult season for the WURD family. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Woody out of Winfield has been waiting patiently for a reality check. Woody?
Hey, man, I'm going to move as fast as I can. I was going to say something about Ms. Chappelle as well. Good morning to you, or should I say now, good afternoon. Boy, you've been going so fast today, Charles, I'm telling you, but you've been hitting it right on the nail, right on the head there, and it's all good. I just wanted to say Miss Emma Chappelle was a very special person to me. When Jesse Jackson ran for president of the United States, she was the one responsible for him coming to our barbershop, and when you look at the Democratic Convention, that big, wonderful speech he did, it was Woodard's barbershop. It was our haircut on his head, and we were so proud to watch that and to hear the speech. It was a great, great speech. So if you ever get a chance to hear that speech, please do. But all credit goes to Miss Emma Chappelle, who I loved and appreciated very much.
I remember that speech in Philadelphia when he was running for president. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. I'm trying. Where was that speech again? Was that it? It wasn't it. I'm forgetting like the exact, but I just remembered. I don't know why. I vaguely remember watching it. But it
was one of the greatest speeches I've ever heard, and he did it in an eloquent way, and he made us all proud. I can tell you that. But again, if it wasn't for Miss Emma Chappelle, that would have never happened. But the key here is I wanted to mention that, and I also wanted to mention this thing on elementary education. If you can, a lot of these younger people, like I really appreciated hearing them earlier today. The college, they go straight from high school to college. We need the 1 to 5th grade educational people who can train them from that point. That's what we do here at this barbershop. There's so many people that are missing reading, and as you stated, how fast technology is moving. How much longer can you keep up, Charles? Particularly if you couldn't read.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard.
It's hard for you, but I'm just saying.
It's already hard. Yeah, exactly. It's hard for me to keep up.
I'm just saying, if it's hard for you, can you imagine how hard it is to see all of these people, 25% of Philadelphia illiterate? That's horrible. So we need to get some of these young college kids focused on elementary education. Let's do a program with that. I would love to have that done.
I agree with you, Woody. So that's something to focus on. So but you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's hard for me to keep. I mean, look at like what was happening earlier on today in this edition. Yeah, I mean, just it's a lot of people don't understand. It's a lot of information. They think it's easy to do this each day, and I don't complain. I really don't complain. I love doing it.
The time you take to complain will be the time you turn around, and then that's when you miss your next step. You gotta keep stepping. You can't. When you're in the air like that, and you're a professional, you can't stop the step because the air time is getting ready to go off. That's why I'm going to get off now because I know you're coming to a close. But keep it up,
I appreciate you.
You're doing a great job, and it's all due to your grandma. That's all I say.
It is. All right, thank you very much. Yeah, she's an ancestor as well, so I miss her too. Let me go to Prince out of Schuylkill, who's calling in for a reality check. Prince.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you?
All right.
We all invested in the United Bank because of Emma Chappelle at that time. She was a first person throughout the city, and so she's gonna be really missed. And so, I just wanted to make a statement in reference to when the gentleman was talking about the money coming down. You can decipher between, is he talking about poor schools because they're performing poorly, or poor schools because the demographics that go there are poor? And then if that's it, if it is the latter, then I would beg to differ, because the poor population, well, first you'd have to identify to me where is the poor population, because we invested $1 billion in the last 15 years in all of public housing and in all of these number of various public housing developments throughout the city in order to enhance the property value in the city. So they aren't considered poor anymore, people in those locations. So he would have to identify to me what are poor people and where is that population at, so we can see, because it seems to all of a sudden pop up, and yet it's not received by people who they say are poor, but don't get the benefits of the resources. And so, and my last note is, my dad told me that you train animals, but you teach human beings. So I don't really believe in anybody say train people. You ain't gonna be able to train them. You can teach them so they can make their own way, but you can't train them. And I'll hang up and listen to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Prince. No, some very good points as far as education funding and where it goes, how it's resourced, what happens when it finally is dispersed, is it being used correctly? There's a whole lot of questions out there. At the end of the day, particularly when we look at school systems like Philadelphia's, and this goes back to partly what Prince was saying and then what Woody was talking about as well, we have got to demand better performance, especially when, Philadelphia's school system is slated to receive $1 billion out of this American Rescue Plan, this pandemic relief package. So we need to demand better performance from the people are not demanding better performance from their school systems. So yeah, it's partly the fault of the school systems and the people who lead these school systems. They are not really contributing to the overall progress of our young people. They're just not. When you have a situation here where you have over a quarter of the adult population of Philadelphia can't read, or you have Philadelphia students on average, reading proficiency rates at just 36%. I think that's for 8th graders. So they're going into high school, and then you're just setting these students up for failure, these young people up for failure, and there's no alarms going off about that. People aren't outraged about that. I know people are outraged about sending their young people back to school, or being forced into a situation where they have to go back to school, and then they're worried about the health situation inside those buildings, and they should be. But I'm like wondering, where's that same level of energy and outrage as to the really poor performance of the school system, and the fact that it seems like everyone's just sort of shrugging and feeling like this is the status quo. Like, okay, you know what? Some students are going to read, but most of the students can't. We're doing our best. I just don't accept that. And it's just no noise. I don't hear any noise, people making any real noise about this illiteracy problem. And, we already got 102 homicides in Philadelphia. We're 29% above where we were the same time last year. Part of the reason, a big part, and Woody would agree with me, and others would too, a big driver of violence, of this high level of violence in a city like Philadelphia's, is high rates of illiteracy. People not reading, or people being unable to read. People being unable to read, and that level of stress and frustration from not knowing how to read and navigate through society, that all builds up. That's one big driver. There's some other drivers, but let me tell you that the illiteracy part is a big component of it. And people are just not taking it seriously. They think, oh, what does that have to do with anything? If you can't read, like, who can help you? You know what I mean? Like, how can you help yourself? And so, who can you help? But it's we have to continue to have that conversation, and not just in terms of reading, but we talked about science literacy early on, or math. You had the young sister who was on here, junior at Simon Gratz. She was saying the program, Poppin' program, has encouraged her to want to get into math, and so we need more young people like that. But it's hard when you don't have a community or a school system that's supporting those kinds of dreams. Or putting our young people on that path, and just making sure that the basics are there. All right, time is up here on this Wednesday, midweek edition of Reality Show. It was a very busy one. I appreciate everyone's patience, and I appreciate people calling in too, and their time, and a lot of the insights, and always enjoy that in the conversation and bearing with me as well. I'm not perfect, but I do my best, and we stay committed you know, to doing the right thing as much as we can and putting out the right information. So really appreciate that. I believe we have the source is coming up next with Andrea Lawful Sanders. So let me go ahead and wrap so we can get to her. Stay tuned in here to WURD. Please stay smart, stay sharp, and more importantly, please stay safe out there. I'll talk to you tomorrow with City Council Live, Thursday, 10 a.m. sharp. Take care.